that no one knows what you're talking about, and starting at that baseline, and then even saying like, I've seen very, very skilled and smart people that are, everyone knows what business they're in, and they still introduce. Like, a great example is Ray Kroc was doing a speech once, and he goes, "What business am I in?" to a business school, and everyone started laughing. And some brave soul raised his hand. He goes, "You're in the business of burgers, Ray." And he goes, "Nope, I'm in the business of real estate."
So that's what's awesome is when someone, and it's like it shows like a humility and stuff, when someone, even if they're a big shot or whatever, they still act as if, like I've met some celebrities, because like my friend's a showrunner in Hollywood or whatever, and when I've met a few like famous people, they'll be like, "Hi, I'm, so and so." They won't just like it's really, not that classy. They just assume that they know you and stuff. So it's very cool. And the same thing would be true with, this example or whatever.
Yeah.
My name's Carl, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, my name is Peter.
I know it's been a couple of months, so. All right, so I'm recording, and we're gonna get started. And basically, this is gonna be, we're gonna start with everyone introducing again who they are and their team idea, and then discuss basically how the homework went. And, if you weren't able to do everything perfectly, no judgment. Like, we're just like that you're doing what you can, and we'll help you in any way that we can. So, and we're gonna keep it to 90 seconds so that everyone can have a chance. And then there should be time after that, because Ray's enjoying us till 1 o'clock. So there should be time after even that to then like process more. Does that sound good, everyone? Peter, do you have anything about guiding them exactly like what to cover? Thanks.
Yeah,
Brett.
I mean, I think that this homework assignment is one of the hardest of all of them, because it's like, people are like, well, they're like, I know my user exists out there in the ether, or everyone's my user. But like really defining that clear definition of who your first adopter is a very difficult thing for people to do. And I normally say it with my students and my other entrepreneurship classes, not everyone's 28 and lives in Williamsburg. So stop telling me that that's your user just because that's the person you know. And I actually heard a great example of it this morning on the radio. An author was talking, a best-selling writer, Lee Child, he writes Jack Reacher novels. He was talking about who reads his novels. He goes, I sell a novel every 9 seconds. I have people that read every single novel I make, and sometimes they read it in a day. Other people who read 1 book a year, and it's my novel. They are 2 very different readers, but they're both people that I have to understand how they want to read my work. So like there's these 2 things when we talk about mass adoption and we talk about first adapters. So you need to target the people that are the first people that will line up, use your product, buy your product, want your service, want to work with you, champion what you're doing. And that's who the target is in this first round. I always talk about iPhones. When iPhones first came out, there was like 10 nerds I knew who like lined up for them. And I was like, cool, it's like a piece of toast, what a neat thing you have there. Not ever in my mind quickly assuming that all of us were going to be using them within like a year and a half. But the early adopters were there in line, showing it off to everyone. You start seeing like, oh, that's kind of cool music, and and you're like, I kind of want one of those. So you're trying to figure out who your early adopters are, not like once the company's huge and you have millions of users, who's going to be using it, because that sort of follow along adopters happen. But those early people that will give you money for your idea or your product, they're who you want to be targeting now.
I'm sure a lot of the designers have made like affinity mapping, and like, you have like at this age bracket and this age bracket, this is like our target type and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of you guys have learned that in school and so forth. Awesome. Okay, so Paxton, who's going first?
So I put the order in the chat. Let me know if I need to resend it if anyone else gets on later, but you can follow along there so you'll know you can be ready to go. But Aizen Chen is first.
The other question is, are they here?
Yes, so give it a few seconds, then we can go to them. The next group is, I don't see Azen, Emily and Serena.
That's Cyber Connect is their name, I think.
Hello.
There it is.
Cyber Connect is next up, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. Oh, sorry. Screen sharing has been disabled. Is it okay if?
Oh yeah, is there a way that we can give everybody the ability to screen share?
Yeah, I try it one more time. I think I just fixed it.
Okay. Does it work now, Serena?
Yes, it works right now. Thank you.
Great.
So, hello, I'm Cyber Connect. We are Cyber Connect. I'm Serena. So, the goal of the Cyber Connect project is basically to connect people to the cyber world through fashion. So, the idea of this project is basically people will be able to shop virtually online through avatars with in-game like features. So, who is the consumer for this type of service? So after doing some research, we figured that like college educated people between the ages of 18 to 30 are our main consumers. So like generally the younger audience, as it's usually the younger audience who are more exposed to anime and manga, since our brand mainly focuses on anime-esque graphic designs, for example, like Omocat and Kinwa Monster, which are our other competitors, who also have similar designs. And yeah, so also people around the ages of 18 to 30, because they're generally more open to foreign cultures and accepting of different art styles other than like what they've grown up with, like cartoons or Disney, like Disney cartoons or comics. And also according to a survey about what age groups anime is most popular in, they found that it is this age group, 18 to 30, and college students, because anime also at the beginning started at college as a trend. So and also it's like people who are in college dorms still renting apartments, and also like looking for work that can satisfy them. So generally people who are not earning as much as, let's say, someone who working at a big company, and also all genders, and yeah, so like our consumers are all genders. Like it doesn't matter if they're like male or female or non-binary. Anime is something that already appeals to everyone, so of different genders. So yeah, our consumers are definitely all gender. And so out of the 11 people that we did customer reviews for, like whether they would use our service or not, 45.5% said no, while 54.5% said yes. So we got some really interesting and useful feedback from them. So a lot of people basically said that why would people want to use your social media or VR chat like function when they just want to buy clothing? Like, for example, if I just want to get a hoodie, why do I want to have like this chat function where I can interact with other users online? So this made us think that like, what if for this project, the service, we had a mode where people can go on onto the website by themselves, so they're not forced to or encouraged to interact with other users, but they can still experience this like still have the game like feature in the website, but it'll still be easy to navigate the online store like a standard online store, because the main goal of this project is to connect people to the cyber world through fashion, and we don't really want to lose that, but we still want to find a way where if people just want to get a hoodie, they can just get the hoodie, while the website still has the aesthetics and graphic design of like a video game, like like interface. And people like the people we also spoke to, some of them mentioned that coding may take a long time and be difficult to do, and if the coding is too complicated, the website may have lag or have a long loading time. So that made us think that, you know, maybe instead of having a complicated in-game interface like Sky Children of Light, we can just have a simple one where it's like a point and click adventure. So it's just full 2D images, simple 2D images with simple animation. So the website will not take too long to load, and there will be less lag. And also, for some of the people who said yes that they would use this service, they basically said that they would like to have an online review function for products, which allows other users to understand the quality of service and products. And I think all this feedback we got were really useful and perhaps true to our consumers, because basically we were on Pratt campus asking people who were already wearing anime apparel. So and we also went
Serena, I'm going to start stopping you because you're well over 90 seconds.
Oh, great. Okay.
All right. So what, 11 people, you identified your demo, you interviewed 11 people, you got a 50-50 response. That's not, you know, winning numbers for a business model. So did you think of any ways you could pivot to make it more appealing based on these interviews to get more of the demo you're targeting?
Yes. So like we basically had an idea where at the beginning we just start as like a standard, like normal clothing online clothing store where we just display clothing, and then later on we start to introduce the idea of being able to like interact with other users online, because like with websites like Amazon or Etsy, like, you know, you can only talk to the creators of, you can only talk to customer service. Like there isn't as much of a connection with, let's say, other people who have similar interests. So we had an idea where we can introduce this later on in the project after the project has gained more traction, like just like through like a standard way of doing an online clothing store. Okay. So with appealing designs, graphic designs, anime.
Okay, so the pivot is pivoting just to an online e-com fashion store for now.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm not faulting that. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah, Serena, what does your MVP look like? Like if you're like a test pilot, what would that look like if you wanted to like test this without investing too much upfront capital?
Right. So it would just so we would first have a line of designs with a theme. So we would have like Yami Kawaii and Yume Kawaii, Yume Kawaii aesthetic to the design, and we would promote it through social media, and we would like use an online site to sell these first, like start getting the brand name of like CyberConnect there, like tell people, hey, we're an online fashion store that basically does designs that specifically look like this, and get that type of audience in first.
Right. Yeah, that to me makes more sense in coding for an entire platform, right? So yeah. I think that's really great. And it looks like the feedback was guiding you in that direction. And it also is going to be way more doable. Nice. Nice work.
Okay. All right. Next, property management system.
That's me.
Right.
Always 90 seconds of stressful.
We won't cut you off exactly at 90 seconds, don't worry. Like, because we have enough time, but we'll try and keep it reasonable.
Okay, so here's my product, that's Color, that helps people in metropolitan areas, especially in cold countries, create personal space by protecting speech privacy and covering the face. So I had interview with 25 people, and the funny thing that when I asked them, do you like the device in general, 90% said like yes, and just 10% say I don't understand this, I don't like it. And when I asked them, would you like to buy such an accessory, 60% say yes and 40% say no. So if something confuses you, could you formulate what exactly you do not like? And some people were confused about the technical nuances because I was speaking with people by Zoom, and they couldn't really touch the device. So is it really possible to speak something safely without being unheard? It's just for cold season and no hood at all. Is it how is it filtered inside? So it's hot in summer, it's condensate in winter. If you buy such thing, you need to be a replacement of a mask, especially in terms of COVID. And if you get comfortable in cold season, then what you should do in summer, how you can replace it, this need for you later. And does it need the scarf? Say, some people were also assuming that it's not really a warm thing. So if you wear a color like this, I just put here some interesting things.
All right, I'm gonna start, that's 90 seconds. That's well over 90 now.
Okay,
So
got
just,
it.
can you sum it up?
Yeah, sure. I define 3 users is entrepreneurs, sport enthusiasts, and the color helps him concentrate and feel more comfortable in bad weather, and
Okay.
he uses it during sport. The second user is focused writer, and the color is working like a note-taking tool, so it's more for work to concentrate. And the third user is emotional neurotic freelancer, a person with fragile mental state. And color helps to maintain self-care and helps alleviate an anxiety. It's that's how I define them.
Okay. And you skipped over, I know I'm speeding you up, but go back to what people would pay for it.
Here.
Nope, one more. Generally, reading off slides will eat up all your time, so you never want to read what's on a slide.
Okay.
How much? From 200 to 300, from $100. So everyone was sort of, no one was lower than 100 for this product if they would pay for it.
Once again?
No one was lower than $100 when you were asking people how much they pay for it.
Well, some people were, but like, I don't think they are my target audience. They were basically students. We just started to it was their first course. So.
Okay. All right, so people understand it generally. Your response on would they buy it a little, much less, and then the price they would pay for it is high enough that at least you'll have good margins. Did you have any pivot or change of thought on your idea based on what you learned from your interviews?
From the beginning, like the initial idea was to solve this for cold season for countries with cold climate. So I'm still not sure how this helpful, like maybe to make a summer version, just to create different products for cold season, for summer season. But basically, I guess like technical nuances or how is it filtered? It can be proven if person just tried the device. I'm not sure though. Like if a person can feel the device and check if you can really speak safely there.
Okay. Usage. Yeah. All right.
Maria, did anyone comment on like the aesthetic of it? Because I didn't see, other than because all the aesthetic comments seem to be like asking or technical, logistical, like, you know, is it warm enough to need a scarf or not? Does it qualify as a mask or not? But there's nothing about the actual, like, you know, concern about maybe feeling self-conscious because it kind of draws attention, right? And if someone's neurotic and maybe has agoraphobia or something like that, then the last thing you want is to draw attention to yourself. Did you have any of that kind of dialogue?
That's basically was like the first thing I heard from people in this student design blog. They like I was doing this for people with mental health issues, and I figure out like if you're a sociophobic, and actually I interviewed them before designing this thing, but most of them were saying like, I don't want to attract attention. And it came to my mind, like, I did this whole stuff in Russia. So it's really cold, like most seasons, like 6 months a year. So basically this pictures doesn't really show the product well. It should be worn in cold season.
So it's more subtle, in other words. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Good. Really good job. Really nice job with the graphics and the slides and everything.
Thank you.
All right. Next.
Split, Leo, Alejandro, or Woody. I'm not seeing them. So next up would be Eugene. And then we have Jesse,
No.
and then Shape Size Symphony then. Oh, so, all right. Spy Crowd. Workforce.
That's me.
All right,
Great.
go ahead.
1 second. Okay, so my name has actually changed a bit, which I'm sure a lot of people's has. I'm now going by Intersect. Just a little bit of background. This is also my capstone thesis for my master's in arts and cultural management. So there's a lot more of like the deep societal research that goes into this just as a part of my program. So the problem that we're facing is that Black artists in New York are faced with considerable barriers to entry just in terms of success. Our solution is to create a platform that serves to eradicate the intersecting and systemic issues that artists face. So with that being said, our platform really is focused around allowing collectors and investors to co-invest in Black art. We believe that this is a system that is not currently available, and we can really disrupt the current pathways to success for New York City artists. In terms of our interviews, so we started off with interviewing artists. We actually have over 50 plus requests for interviews. We've done about 20, and we've done about 5 creative industry leader interviews and 10 fully coded interviews. I'll explain what that means. We're actually coding each individual interview with a software called Deduce, and that is helping us pull out specific themes so we can figure out the exact problems that artists and collectors and investors are facing and hoping to really bridge that gap and create a disruptive technology. So in terms of our profiles, there's really 3 types. We interviewed artists, collectors, and gallery dealers. So for the artists, their primary concern was not having a community, obviously not having funding, not being able to support themselves fully in their work, which is something we're trying to change. For the dealer, the primary issue that we've heard is not being able to find a place where they can find and get to know these Black artists. It's really, really concentrated in that the top Black artists are talked about all the time, but everyone who's sort of underneath essentially has no platform or visibility. And the last one, actually, this is typo, it should say the collector, but this is just a collector that is really interested in contemporary Black art, doesn't know where to find them, can't afford the super high stuff, can't afford a Basquiat, but is interested in Black art and would like a place to find that work.
All right, you're well over 90 seconds, so can you sum up what you learned?
Yeah, so I would say that we have sort of, the biggest takeaway is that starting a platform like this, a lot of artists actually don't want to sell their work to a company or a platform because they believe that it doesn't give them good visibility. So something that we're going to need to think about is that if we do end up purchasing on behalf of people or building a platform, how can we make sure that this artwork is still ending up in, you know, large institutions, branded collections, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to ask. Is like, what's your incentive model for that? Like, if you were talking to yourself, what would be your selling point for that?
If I was an artist?
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think you'd most want to hear? Would like really be like, oh wow, like that really,
Yeah,
exciting to me.
So I think along with building a community, which will come inherently with the platform, we actually want to have the ability to purchase the work ourselves as the platform and be able to sell it again to someone else. So the real incentive is that like, we will buy your work. Like, and we have kind of deduced the most important way to support a Black artist is to buy their work. They want people to buy their work. So that's what we're trying to solve.
Okay. First of all, great job with the interviews and just like all of the work in figuring this information out and quantifying it, because I'm sure you know, working on this for your thesis, that data is only as good as the questions you ask. Bad data in, bad data out. So great job there. What I'm just hearing is, so the platform buys the work of Black artists and then resells it to collectors through, you're cutting the dealer out, or you're going to sell to dealers and direct to collectors?
Yeah, so we wouldn't actually, deviate between like who can buy the work. Anyone can buy it. And by the way, we can also buy the work from the gallery. The point is, we just want Black art to be bought in totality. And we're really focused on making sure that we're not in direct opposition of the current counterparties in this market. We want to be partners with galleries. We want to be partners with museums. We don't want to disrupt it. We just want everything to work a little bit better, more seamlessly.
So from an investor standpoint, the question I would be asking is, I'm going to give you $1 million. You're going to go buy artwork. You buy artwork from Black artists, and then you're going to list it to sell to dealers, museums, and collectors.
Right.
The markups, so you're adding one more phase in between dealers and artists, but you're saying that dealers can't find the artist and the artist can't find the dealer, so you're being that bridge.
Yeah.
And the artist said to you, we want transparency and how much more, because I want to know that I'm making my money back, and that you're gonna have to mark their artwork up again to sell it to a dealer, and then the dealer is gonna have to mark it up. And I don't see any problem with marking. That's actually very much how distribution models work. But did you get any pushback from dealers saying, why don't I just go directly to the artist, or the artist saying, why don't I sell directly to the dealer because there's less of a middleman cost?
Yeah, that's definitely a relationship that can exist. We're actually trying to target the places where that doesn't happen. The place where the dealer is not interested in the artist that is not getting any interest for dealers for whatever reason. Like, we'll be that conduit. Hopefully, we can actually drum up some interest for you. But if the artist is at a phase of their life where dealers are super interested, we're probably not the direct market for them.
Okay.
We're kind of trying to target the people who are maybe one step before that.
So you're targeting like up and comers, who don't have the connections yet, and you could be the springboard. So maybe they start with you, and then once they get more recognized, partly as a result of you, they can then become the direct connect. Is that kind of the idea?
Exactly. And we believe that the biggest price jump actually happens in that point of time. So if we were to have investors, they would actually have probably pretty significant returns, because if we buy the work first, like the next step is only going to be way higher than that. And then the magnitude in which the price will increase will probably be smaller.
Awesome. So I think leading with that and explaining like we're a springboard, like that's what I would lead with, rather than just, we're here for, obviously it's awesome you're there to like for artists and I'm promoting like awesome like diversity and stuff, but also just from a practical standpoint, the artist is going to be like, okay, what's in it for me as well, and so I think that's just articulating, leading with that as well, or maybe with both, would be really awesome. And then especially once you get some testimonials, then that's really going to help, right? Once you help someone really get launched, I would love to hear that as an artist, those testimonials.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, I think you're definitely on the right direction. I think it's just making clear how anyone who invests, or how and I understand that, if you're starting with the beginning artists, that you're helping get them exposure. So, but I do think that there's this huge conversation in the art industry about transparency on the resale market, which I think we all see as a big conversation. But the other is like how we are looking at art in the way of investment versus actually like looking at it as like just like good quality work. People look at art now as a stock, rather than like, I want to own something. And I forget it was the photography artist who said people spend more time looking at the price of a Picasso than a Picasso, so there is like maybe something to talk about the art market as well.
And the other thing is, I know this can open up a whole can of worms, but I'm wondering if this also goes into like new media, like NFTs and stuff like that as well, you know? So, because I mean, I'm sure you're following what's going on with like,
Totally. Yeah,
it's insane, right?
Yeah, we're trying to get to the root. So the problem, not the problem, but the thing about NFTs is it's not based on aesthetics at all. Like it's purely based on like pricing, community, that sort of thing. And we are trying to still stick with the idea of like, we value this work as a culturally relevant and important piece.
Okay, cool.
Stay
'Cause I
with
was gonna
that.
say,
Stay with that.
could
Stay
get-
away from NFTs. I mean, I like the NFT market. I think it's great, but there's a lot of snake oil in it right now. I spend more time blocking people trying to sell me NFTs on Instagram than like anything else. I'm like, report. All right, very good job. Who is next?
Excellent work.
Next up is Sophia.
I'm here. Can you guys see my screen?
Mhm.
Yes, looks great.
Okay, so my stationery company is a company manufactures safe stationery products for children. So I only had the safety Caesar last time, but I was able to come up with like total 7 different products over the break. So my customer profile, who's my consumers, I divided into 3 different groups. First one are like the moms whose like children is between 5 to 10, and then the second group was for dads, and then the third one is like older siblings who have like younger siblings who are like in between like 5 to 10. And then for my consumer research, like I could interview like total 12 people in general, but then for my consumer research, I had like 2 different interviews with the same people, but it was before showing my all of the products, and then it was after my showing products. So my first interview was like generally asking about like, what is the main important factors when you consider when you're like purchasing the stationery products for your children? Like, do you shop it online, offline?
You don't need to read it
And,
to
like,
us. We can read it faster than you'll read it to us.
Okay. It's like 3 dangerous stationery products, blah, 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 like that. So 66% of the people said like safety is like the most important reason to bring up for the stationery product. And then second was functionality, obviously, and then third was design. And then they said like purchasing individually products at the store is kind of annoying whenever like children they get like they lost their products at the school or like the as usual. And the dangerous product was like scissors, paper, pencil sharpeners. So the second interview was like after showing my all of the products that I could come up with over the break. It was paper file, pencil sharpener, like all of the dangerous product that I thought it could be like revised in my design. And then after my second interview, most of my feedback was based on my product, which was like, oh, it would be great if like design was like slightly changed, like having improvements. But there was a question about like, is it online only? And then what about the other products? So after the interview, I came up with like 2 possible services that I could add to my service was selling my product as a safe like stationery set or box, because most of the parents purchase the set of the stationery before they enter the school. They don't like purchase like individually. So I came up with that. And then second was like, since they came do the set and the box, it could be like monthly like subscription services if they need it. It could also be individual products. And then lastly, from the idea of like the subscription service and the selling as a set, I thought that my consumer target could be expanded to like from individuals to organization where like children study at like elementary school, kindergarten, or like even orphanage or like art studio where they need stationery product as like a set, because that could be like a daily use. So that was my
Good job.
presentation.
Everyone's got to work on their 90 seconds. I love that you did 2 rounds of interviews. I think that you learned a lot and you made a smart pivot there. The only thing that I see that I think that maybe you shouldn't, the mail subscription would be kind of weird for like scissors and glue sticks and things, I think. But I do think identifying that you could sell direct to institutions is a great identification, because if you're looking at both, selling to consumers and selling to schools and institutions, that's two streams of revenue, and that's exactly what an investor would look for in funding a project like this. Carl?
For me, I'm just, what is, again, I'm always looking for incentive models. So what is your biggest incentive? Like for you, what would sell you on this? What would be the biggest point that's what I'm trying to understand, that you'd be like, oh, I want to ditch what I'm doing right now and invest in get this product?
So the most like products that I'm like very confident about is like the safety scissors and like the pencil sharpness.
The
like
safety seems to be, like you said, that's 2/3, right, of what people are emphasizing for this. So like, how do you differentiate your safety scissors from other safety scissors on the market? That's what I'm trying to understand, is that.
So I added like some design and like functions that I like didn't include this presentation.
Yeah, I guess I'm missing the visual. That's what's really, for me, that's what's confusing. Like the whole time I'm just like, I just want to see the prototype or something,
Okay, so it's basically a scissor that like blades like goes into the handle side. So like it is like very safe to like use it, and afterwards it is like safe.
Yeah, you said it. I agree with you, Carl. I was hoping to see the new designs as well. But I was, just anytime that you're saying, and then I redesigned it, and then you don't show it, it's kind of hard for us to be like,
it's a
cool.
tease.
But I was also like, we also have 90 seconds, so I'm not going to even comment. I'm just going to assume that you're going to show me finished designs by the end of this class.
Okay, I can definitely add it to the next presentation then.
Yeah, well, exactly. That's great. Like, as long as you have it, like, and here's the thing, like, I can't wait till we get back to being in person, because the best is if you have like an actual 3-dimensional prototype, so that then the judges at the pitch competition can actually hold it, right? And then like have that tactile experience. But if you can't do that, at least have just a very beautiful like depiction of it, whether it, showing like, the iterations of it, how you pivoted. And so to show all the thought that went into it, and also the aesthetic appeal of it. That'd be really awesome.
Yeah. This actually falls very much in the wheelhouse of stuff I've done before. So, this is one of those ones where this could easily be crowdfunded. This could easily be, small product companies, small consumer product companies. If you haven't signed up, Shop ObJ, the trade show is going on this weekend, and it's all sorts of design consumer products. So, but we do need to see images of what you're selling to make sense of it. But I think next homework assignment's going to help you with that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, great job though, and also you have a nice, good job presenting as well. It was like nicely paced. Obviously, everyone wasn't ready for the 90 seconds. That's not what I'm saying, Peter. Don't worry. But I'm just saying, like, as far as like, from a have a background in performance, and so it was like calm and easy to hear.
Nice.
Great, awesome job, everybody. So far, I'm really impressed with these. You guys did great work. Who's next?
Bend is up next. Anybody from Bend here?
And Paxton, you're keeping track of everyone that's here, right? So we can, okay,
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep. All right. So no one from Bend. So can we go to the Arts Alley?
That's me. 1 second.
Okay. All right.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I'm Linda Mitchell and my partner is Brooke Olson, and we are representing the Arts Ally. The Arts Ally is a networking program that connects artists and galleries via a dating app algorithm. If you're not familiar, apps like Tinder match people who get the same amount of likes. Our program allows all parties to build a profile based on the type of work they make, their demographics, and what opportunities they're looking for / who they may want to work with. So we did a bunch of interviews. We had about 10 sit down like Zoom interviews, and then about 20 cold calls, and we got a lot of positive feedback. But our biggest thing is that we were prompted to consider the intricacies of location and how the market fluctuates from places like New York to Alabama. Like, people want very different things. Our first customer is the emerging artist, and that could be someone of any age. It's just someone who's starting out. And this person is in college or just out of college, starting at the beginning stages of the career, and they generally have a lack of connections. Our second person is a small gallery owner, and these people usually have like 2 artists on their roster. They're looking to expand or, you know, just maintain their base and, like, you know, how large their business is. They have a physical gallery space and a website. And these people are usually middle-aged, older. They're not super concerned about doing anything crazy or big. They just, you know, want to keep their business afloat. Our third customer is the established galleries, and this is definitely something we're going to have to work up to. From my interviews, another thing we learned is that we are pretty ambitious, but we should probably start a lot smaller. So we want to start with small artists and small galleries, and as we go, and we're going to start approaching bigger artists and bigger galleries. And this person is more established, and they have a higher rate of revenue, and they have ties to art fairs and larger staff. And our last customer is the established artist. This is like
I'm going to speed you guys up a little bit because you're already well over your 90 seconds.
Okay, I just have a few more things.
Just tell me what you learned. That's what I really want to know.
What we learned is that, I mean, even with the smaller meeting that we had with you two, we learned that we need to start smaller and just take baby steps. We also learned, we tacked on a few other components to our program, like considering location, which was like something so big. Like Brooke was telling me how people in Alabama or galleries in Alabama aren't really interested ever in seeing artists or paintings with nudity in it, whereas like it's not as much of a big deal as somewhere here in New York. So if we could just tackle, you know, the intricacies of location, I think that'll be great.
Great. I have kind of a strange comment, but or maybe it's not strange, but it's when the way you, like, I know what obviously you're doing, but when you opened it, you kind of there was such an emphasis on dating app. It almost, like, if I had no idea what you were doing, I might think that you were talking about creating a new dating app because you were talking about Tinder. You know what I mean? Until you start describing like art galleries and stuff like that. And then so I think it might be helpful to just be super clear first to establish what it is before you start referencing like analogous, like, especially if it's not directly related. Does that make sense? Like, just,
yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I want to second that and say that I think generally it's just bad form to say we're going to be the Uber of, we're going to be the Facebook of, we're going to be the because like I don't know how many pictures I've heard where like we're going to be the Uber of pizza delivery, and I'm like, okay, great, another Uber of something. So like I think you could just say like using a co-liking model as seen on other apps and not even saying dating. Like that.
Yeah, because then all I was thinking about was Tinder. When Peter said that, all I'm thinking about is Uber, right? Like suddenly your brain goes to that.
Yeah, and the other thing you can easily say is you can say, you know, just sum it up in a much shorter way where you're like connecting small artists and small galleries through a model where they use an app that they can easily like each other's things, and then we bridge them together. Things super, and like I don't think you need to explain how Tinder works for me to understand that.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I think feedback on your research. Great job doing the interviews. Great job identifying that, like, you know, maybe you don't want to be at first everywhere in the United States. Maybe Alabama is not a target market for you. Maybe you're just starting out in metropolitan cities. Maybe your MVP is New York, Chicago, Boston, LA. Even that might be super ambitious, but maybe starting in, I've never thought about the art collecting scene in Alabama before until this day.
Or Alaska. That was like super interesting to me.
Yeah, we went down by the alphabet. We were just, you know, targeting every state.
That's
Oh,
amazing.
that's why you said Alabama and Alaska.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
'Cause I'm like,
amazing.
I thought you were saying it because they're two extremes. You know, one's all the way north, one's in the south.
Well, yeah, that too.
I mean, I know that like, Jackson Hole, Wyoming has very amazing, to the other side of the alphabet, has a very amazing art gallery scene. But I think that maybe for your MVP, since we've been talking about, pulling it down, is either, I'm not going to say New York City, because I think New York City galleries are well known. I think LA, maybe it's outside of New York City, smaller galleries in Hudson Valley, something like that. But also starting somewhere where you guys have access to go talk directly to the artists and the dealers until you get the web system working exactly how you want it, But I think that you learned a lot, and I think understanding that starting small, starting with the needs of smaller artists and smaller galleries is a much better place to launch this and prove it before trying to tackle the whole gigantic art market.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, nice work. You guys really, your work is showing off. It's really awesome to see. Who's next, Paxton?
Rooted Bunch.
Yes, I'll share my screen right now.
Great.
So hey guys, I'm Zach and my partner Aishi, and we're going to be presenting our customer profiles and user insights from the past 3 months. So just a recap of our initial idea, Rooted Bunch. It's an interactive community on social media for those who want to reconnect to their Asian roots through exploring, sharing, and documenting cultural practices and traditions. So we started off by building our customer profiles of people who we thought would benefit from engaging with our community. And so here we have, the outgoing college student, city dwelling dreamer, and suburb queer activist.
Yeah, so moving on to our interviews, we basically shared our ideas with these personas and collected different insights. So the questions we targeted were basically, would you follow this platform? Would you interact with the community? And would you be interested to share your story and also hear from others? So from our interviews, we came up with some potential new ideas. So firstly, we realized that people don't only want to focus on the positive aspects of culture, but also on the more controversial and political topics. Also, we wanted to personally ask people for features to increase their convenience. And lastly, being less informative and more personal. And regarding our next steps, we want to continue with interviews and also using our social media platform, sort of putting more content out there to see what people are interested in and what they aren't. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Good job. 90 seconds on the dot. Great work there. Can you go back 2 slides? So I think you did a good job telling us what you asked, but now tell us what you learned and how you're going to monetize it, or how you're going to, maybe it's the next slide after this, potential new ideas. So talk a little further about, now that you've done the interviews, the next step is launching something that hopefully can make money. How will this make money?
That was pretty amusing, Peter. You you literally go, how are you going to make money? But anyways, you still got it across. So what do you guys say?
Yeah, so a lot of our business model, our revenue model was going to be based off of like advertising, promotions, and just collaborations with different kinds of organizations that might be interested in showcasing different parts of culture and different cultures. So that's what we initially wanted to do. What we realized was that it was kind of hard for people to interact with the community based on what our initial model was, which was like putting out content that was very like, very informative, very historical, like, let's teach people about this. But in doing so, because we don't want to be speaking for other cultures as well, like it might be not correct to be showing such like historically accurate like things when it's not really our culture to be sharing. What we can do, however, is become a platform for others to share stories or personal experiences, really personalize that aspect instead of hitting the boring kind of historical aspect that might turn some people off.
Or it could be, I mean, it could be really engaging and stuff, but you guys aren't historians, right? And so even if you're from it, you might, like you might not be an authority on a specific history. Like I wouldn't be an authority on everything I am either. But
Mhm.
that's what I was wondering. That's what I was going to ask you is what specifically you mean by when you say less informative, more personal. What does more personal mean to you in that context?
So I think more personal meant more so like how different people of any background celebrate a certain holiday, a certain culture, even if it's not from their culture. How do they celebrate it?
Nice. And you mentioned food, right? Like I remember that.
Yes.
Like that was.
Yeah. So people sort of prompting people to explore their, family recipes, for example, and getting them to share it if they're comfortable with it, or prompting other people to, explore their own. So it's more of a platform to share and sort of, read other people's stories rather than informing people or teaching people something, I guess.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's a good pivot. Just like based on, NPR podcasts of what people are talking about, sharing, talking about culture through food and through family is a much better way to do it than trying to historically take a position, especially as we know, history is fraught with problems. So I think that's a much better approach. Getting it launched and figuring out how to monetize is going to be the big key for you guys.
So
Yeah.
last question for you guys. Same question I've been asking a lot of people is what would be your big incentive? Like, how would you pitch this to yourself? What would you want to hear that would make you excited to join this?
I think for me, it would be about connecting to people who are in a similar boat as me, because especially moving across the globe and, adjusting in a new country, just finding people who are in a similar boat and also trying to reconnect to their culture in a whole new country.
Nice.
I think that's a big aspect. And another aspect, which we kind of found out through the interviews, is just sort of having this opening a forum for discussion. And again, as we identified, not only on the positive aspects, but also the negative and more controversial topics that younger people might be more interested in.
Okay.
Nice. Sense of community. That's awesome. Great.
All right. Nice. Cool. Good job, guys.
Thank you.
Great. So I think we now have time for a 5-minute break.
Hold on. Are we done? Is that everybody?
No, we have a.
Oh, I'm so sorry. My bad.
We have a few more. We've got Class Hood is up next.
No.
Yeah, it's me. I'm just gonna share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm just gonna put it on the side. So yeah, my name is Jonah, and my product is Class Hood. Oops, this happened again, like the last time. Hold on. Hold on. Let me reshare it this way. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So ClassHood helps creatives who wants to learn new skills and connect with each other by providing a platform with expert lead classes locally. And based on my initial research, I did a customer experience map just to understand how the users would interact with the product. And initially, I came up with the two type of user, which is the creative learner and the instructors. And I made an empathy map based on my initial thoughts and assumptions. And after I did some user research and interviews, the feedback that I got was some customers might be eligible to teach, but they also would like to take classes as both of a learner and an instructor. And while I initially wanted the app to be only in person, but a lot of them actually said including online learning is a good option because it requires less effort. And then when asked about payment and how they enroll, they actually said they wanted to have more enrollment options such as subscription or take a bunch of classes together and pay at once. So based on that, I created 3 audience types, which is learner and instructor and learner and instructor. And based on their pain points, I created the user persona. For the learner, it's hard to follow through, even though they wanted to take classes, but the online programs make it a little hard. And also they don't find affordable classes locally. And for the instructor and learner, they just wanted to have a side job to bring extra income, but they don't have a platform to actually advertise their work. And for the pure instructor, it's hard for them to find people to take classes regularly. And then they want to have a platform to advertise their work and practice. So for the next step, I would like to have further interviews and ask about additional features that we would like to add on the app, and also create a preliminary information architecture to understand the overall structure, and also just to understand more enrollment and payment options to validate what could be applied on the app.
Super clear. I don't have a ton of questions because I think you answered most of them. Carl?
Yeah, well, one question just to follow up what you just said, like when you say your next step is more, is it now that you have a more targeted demographic, how are you gonna seek out the next iteration of folks that you're gonna, talk to about this so that you can further refine it?
Yeah, so the next step is just like the incentives for the three types of users who would like to register on the app, and also like how do they monetize their practice, like how do people register and how do they pay, and like what percentage of the money the app takes and and give it to them. It's just like that kind of questions that involving with the business and financial objectives of the app. That's something that I would like to know.
Great. And what did you find people were most excited about when in this initial round of interview?
Find that.
Sorry,
Peter, we didn't hear what you said.
You got me?
Now we do.
I was saying when you said how the money breaks down, you have to define that. They're not going to define that for you.
Yeah, initially I thought it was just like they take one class, or like the first class is free or something. But then later on I did some interview and some people said like, what about I want to pay a monthly subscription that I can take as much classes as possible, or if I can pay just like one price and take 4 classes instead of 3, like the 4th one is free. So it's like all that decisions that I wanted to make. But I think like from my initial interviews, the money that they would like to pay for each class is a sweet spot would be anywhere from $30 to $100. So it's like they wouldn't want to pay like more than that unless it's like a very advanced tech class or like AI, like classes that require special equipments and stuff. So that's what I actually learned. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that probably like an incentive for them is that they're getting the one-on-one back and forth that you wouldn't get on like a Coursera or a LinkedIn e-platform or like a YouTube or whatever. They'd actually have the back and forth. Is that part of this?
Well, like it's I think it's like a part of it is the social aspect of it. So it's like it's an in-person learning experience in the local locations. So like you learn while you connect with other professionals to kind of expand your career network and advance your career.
So there's a community building element to this.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Great, excellent job. Really nice slides too. Great work, everybody. Paxton, is there, who do we have next?
Yeah. Sorry, I muted myself. I'm going to quickly read off. I think a few people aren't here, so just cut me off if you are. Renan. We have Ordy.
He's here.
All right, Ordy, you're next up.
No.
Okay. Shelly, Peter, and Jackson. Then we have MATLAB. Anybody from MATLAB?
Yeah.
Great. Go ahead and start.
I'll just share my screen. Can you see my screen?
No.
Yes,
Not yet.
we can. It says Kaya has started. There you go.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay.
Big
Hi. Hi. So Anu. Okay. 1 second. Yeah. So hi, this is Kavya and my partner is Anu. So my screen is actually glitching. I'm just gonna ask her to share it if that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, just 1 second.
Yeah.
And thanks for joining us, Ray. We're at the very end, so it's appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
No worries. Take your time. Yeah, can you see my screen now?
Okay. So our big idea is this is like an online e-commerce platform that basically customers, architects, and designers can use to visualize and sample material palettes from a library. And these are the three potential users which will be involved, like architects, designers who need to source materials, then the end clients, and obviously the vendors who will be supplying the clients and the designers. So this was the MVP. So this is an online material store where like we want to start with verified architects who can actually start sampling materials for free. And so we actually started making these samples. We've gone to India and we spoke to like a couple of architects there. And being an architect myself, I have seen people struggling through these material boards. So we made these 3 boards just to see how people would be using them in their office and show their clients. Then so these were the insights from our interviews. Like we spoke to like different architects, vendors, and clients, and then to narrow it down, these were like the main 4 ideas, I think. Like so we feel like our idea works because a lot of things have changed because of the pandemic and it has more value in it. Then this also makes things very accessible because in India small cities don't have access to materials. Then young architects actually love the idea because they don't know where to start from when they begin their their practice. And this was good for clients because most of them said that it's very hard for them to visualize materials sometimes when they're shown by architects and designers, and also to compare like market rates of materials or what's happening. Then we feel like our idea does not work because of these things. So one was like a lot of architects get like a percentage of profit from every transaction they make with the vendor, so they were not sure about that. And then some like big offices have their own material library. Then some also established architects, like they have good connections with the vendors, so they're not interested in maybe entering something new because they're already built with them. And clients, some of them said that we do not care about this because we already hire architects and they handle end to end, so we are not sure if we really will be needing something like this. Then so these are the few changes we proposed. Like one was a lot of clients are looking for like architects to work with. So we thought like we can actually have architects on the website to help them with like new ideas and materials. So this is one of the thing. Then second is that a lot of people were actually interested in buying more materials from like abroad or like international places with like new exposure. So they were interested in showing new connections to other cities and countries. And the third one was that architects like don't want to keep materials with them once they finish sampling. So we thought like we can involve like another party which will help us with the logistics and the delivery and keeps a track of that. Yeah. No, that's about it. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that you discovered a lot of what I thought was going to come up. And then figuring out who really is the customer is going to be important. But I do think the one thing that you said that I thought was interesting was that smaller places, smaller firms and smaller areas don't have access to the materials. So having this for them may be a resource. Carl?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to hone in on is like what Peter said. So then my mind would go to what quality assurance or what is your vetting process to make this like so appealing, right? So it's one thing if you have access that someone else doesn't, but then how do I know that what you have access to is like worth that, right? Is really special. So like, that's, I'd want to know like how you validate that.
So we actually thought of bringing verified vendors so that, they can see. And also another thing we wanted to add to this was that like if you see some building which is or any space which is using some kind of material, and then you want to like you can maybe like zoom in on the materials in the image and like hover around and see what materials is used by which vendor, and it's like verified and used by other architects and designers, so you obviously get more interested. And the other issue is that finding verified vendors is actually really hard, especially in India, because there's so many people you don't know who will be willing to give you that quality you need. So I think like this would help you connect with the verified vendors in bigger cities too.
So that's why we had this sort of like adding this feature saying that this architect has used materials from this vendor, so that it becomes more evident that this vendor is good.
Yeah, verification.
Yeah.
Like Alibaba has gold star verification, platinum star verification. So okay, yeah. Good job. I think that you guys are working toward the right, you're doing exactly what you need to do. You're figuring out where your users would use your product and pivoting it toward it. So that's good. I think we'll pick up anyone that we haven't done yet, we'll do after Ray, because I don't want to eat into his time. I am going to turn it over to Carl to introduce Ray. And hey, Ray, nice to see you, bud. And then anyone who hasn't gone yet, we will do you right when we come back after break, okay?
Okay, so great. So right now, obviously, anyone needs to take a break. Feel free to do that on your own. And then, but we want to just keep going through because it took a while to get everyone's projects intro done. Sorry, I'm like trying to think of a million things at once. All right, that being said, Ray is amazing. He's been a guest for a couple, I think at least 2 Ignition Labs before. I'm gonna let him talk about himself, but I'm so excited for him to be here. And Ray, what I told everyone is, how amazing you are at personal engagement. So don't be shy about actually getting in it with you after you do introduce yourself and so forth, because I love just watching you really understand someone's idea.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Carl and Peter. Great to see everyone. And it's weird. Like, I like being in person because then you can really, interrupt, for lack of a better word, and ask questions and really engage. But at least I can do this from not in New York, so I guess that's fine. And from the little I picked up on the last 2 presentations, I really love what you guys are doing. As in, I wish I'd seen more. Maybe I'll stick on a little bit, although I have a house full of people downstairs. As I was watching you guys, I was just thinking, there's a big trend for guys like you, young people, I love that, who are starting their own businesses and taking the reins of their own destiny in some manner. And it's a very hard path, but it's an extremely satisfying path. The easier path is, and I'm assuming some of you have jobs, some don't, and the easier path are the jobs. It seems to be the easier path, but in the long run, it's the more difficult path because you start distancing yourself from the stuff you really like to do. And at some point you hit a wall and you almost I'm mixing my metaphors here, but you feel like you're falling off a cliff. Like, what have I done? I've chased the wrong things. So I love that you are at this stage, starting something that's your own, and I was watching, I think Lex Friedman, one of his interviews, and he was interviewing, I can't remember, I think it was Peter Wang, who was the kind of developer of Python. And I like the language they use, but they said, when you're starting something, you're scratching your own itch. You're the audience of one, and you've got to love what you do, and it's got to work for you. And only then can you start, selling it to people. And if you love it and it works for you, it's more likely to work for the next person. And then it's going to be the next person and the next person. So, it's very hard to just start from scratch and go, okay, I'm going to sell to, 2 million people at the same time. It might work, but generally you just scratch your own itch and go to the next one and the next one, and goes outward from that. I think I'll take you guys through my journey. And I feel like, even though I'm probably 3 times your age, I'm right along with you because I am right now starting my own business too. Another one, a 4th business. And it's exciting and terrifying at the same time because every few months I have to pivot. We have to pivot, my partners. And I wake up one morning going, this is amazing. It's just fantastic. And then I wake up the next morning going, oh my God, this is never going to happen. But you just got to stay put and keep trying and keep trying and keep pivoting until it happens. And it'll happen. Should I start? Did anyone have any questions, or Carl, Peter?
Well, we want to know who you are first, and then the questions will come. We want to get to your journey.
Yeah, actually, maybe the journey. Yeah, I'll show you the journey, and then that'll show you who I am. And please go.
I know who you are, but
then there'll be questions. Okay, let me share my screen, and How do I share my screen?
Oh, Paxton, can we give him the?
I think I
While
do have
you're
access.
sharing, I want to just say, I think the idea of you're scratching your own itch and then figuring out how to make that help other people is a great metaphor for customer research.
Yeah. And you learn a lot.
It should be ready for you to share your screen. It's at the bottom. There's a little green
It
share
is.
screen arrow.
I got it, Paxton. I can't find. I've got so many tabs open. I can't find my own
Okay.
damn tab. It's my problem, not yours. Let me find the right thing I'm trying to share. Sorry. Okay, what do you see? You see something that says a journey?
Yeah, we see Pratt 5 February, so that's probably it.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, and I'm gonna. Oh my God, what am I doing? I'm not at home. I'm out. So this is a
I
little.
still just black, but maybe it's taking a second.
Okay, great. So, like I said, this, or Carl said, this is a journey. It's never ending. I don't think there's a destination that you aim for and then you're done. It's just a nonstop evolution, which is what keeps it interesting and exciting. So I'll take you through my journey from the time I came to America from India, from Bombay, which was Bombay at the time. I wanted to be in communication, and everyone said the mecca of communication is New York. So I headed there after going to Syracuse, which seemed to be a pipeline for New York. Now, my description of that is very transactional. I just wanted a job in New York, and that's what I focused on, and that's what I did. Now, in retrospect, I wish I'd looked at the bigger picture and looked at other things, but at some point, it came to me that I can not just aim for that singular job and that path of these titles that go along with it. So I first joined an agency, Saatchi & Saatchi, and with all these high ideals of having global campaigns and doing public service ads and helping the world and all that stuff. And my first big assignment was launching the Red Balloon, which is a Lucky Charm. That was my job, and I was kind of like a little discombobulated, going, oh my God, I thought I was going to do these big things, and here I am selling sugar to kids. So wham, right away I was like, what am I doing? But I continued because that was the path. And I was very proud of the Red Balloon for a little bit, going, I don't know, man, it's something. Everyone's, it's national, it's running nationally, but I was kind of like, I don't know. So my next thing was this thing, and by the way, that's 1988. So to give you some context, okay, how, where my journey, of my path. This is 1991, where I moved agencies and did this thing that felt satisfying to me. In fact, maybe I'll say it's my favorite ad, even though I've done, thousands since then. And if you guys have been in New York in the subway during winter, you'll see this running every year, where it's the coat drive, and it works. Point being, if you can hit the right feelings with your audience, things really work. So what you guys were presenting right now in terms of audience research is incredibly important. You got to get into the minds of your audience. So just to give you the insight of what led to this, the year before I did this ad, the years before, the creators would get this assignment, and they'd have people in like ice cubes and dead and all that stuff, and no one would donate coats. And the insight that was handed to me was that people in New York are constantly bombarded by info, and they don't want another thing yelling and screaming at them, So this thing.
Sorry to interrupt, Ray, but I just have to tell that this ad, like years before I met Ray, I saw this on the subway. It actually inspired me to bring 2 jackets that I've been holding on to since college and donated them. And that's the first time I ever met Ray. I was shocked when I saw this image, and I told him that. I just had to share.
Thanks, Carl. I'm glad it's making you do stuff, making people do stuff. And that was the whole thing, The ads before that were turning people off. They were not donating coats. Whereas this, made people feel soft, you know, and they were like, you gave them something to do. Oh, I just have to take my coat and stick it in that box that has the symbol on it. And the year before this ad ran, they got something like 12,000 coats, and then this ad ran and they got 80,000 coats. And I was just blown away by the fact that this works. That's what really was the insight for me, as in communication. If we can hit the right emotions of your audience, you can make actions happen with communicating the right way. So I understood the power of the business I was in, but most of the business didn't satisfy me as much as this did, because it was just selling stuff like, you know, Lucky Charms and stuff. And it's fun, you know, but not satisfying for me. So then I worked in a nice agency called Shayad Day. I don't know if you guys know agencies, but you know, the reason I put this here is to let you know that throughout my career, I look for mentors, and it's super important that you find them, because you can't do this thing alone, you know. And it's not just the practical support you get, like, you know, do this and do that. It's the emotional support you get, where you feel like you actually can do something that's bigger than you. That guy, that picture over there, is an old friend, Andy Spade, who at the time was starting Kate Spade with his wife. And he taught me what branding was all about, you know. So we were at this crazy agency, and was completely with Jay Shyatt and Lee Clow, and they were working on, you know, Think Different Apple and stuff at the time. So it was incredibly exciting. And the point of the slide is to say, look for mentors and really learn from them. Stay open and just ask questions. There's no stupid questions. So once you find someone you really get along with and you look up to, and they're doing things you want to do, befriend them and ask them stuff, and the generous ones will help. So this guy's been very generous with me throughout my career, life, friendship. Then I did this thing. I'm going to try and play it. I went to Berlin and Amsterdam, and it was a time in my life when I was like, fuck it, I don't care. I'm just doing whatever the hell I want. So I said, you know, I'm here in America on this corporate path. I'm done with advertising. Andy had told me to stay in it. I said, Andy, the guy I just showed you in the previous picture, I said, Andy, I'm done, man. I can't do this anymore. I can't stand it. I'm getting out of it. And then he told me, do you know what brand is? And I go, I was about to tell him, and he goes, not a trick. He goes, brand is the space in your mind, and all the artifacts are like things like logos and, you know, the handbag, like his Kate Spade bag. He says the artifacts are kind of the souvenirs you take away from the lifestyle. That's a space of mind. And I was like, oh my God, I never looked at it like that. Now that's obvious these days, but at the time I was just blown away. And he told me how the Saatchi brothers actually helped make the Prime Minister of England with that kind of thinking. And I was like, oh my God, this is an incredible business I'm in. However, 99.9% of it was just doing crap. So in Amsterdam, I did this ad. I'll try and play it. It might play. Oh, it's not playing. But anyway, oops. Essentially, maybe you can watch it. I'm not sure. I can't seem to, it's not live. Anyway, you can watch it on YouTube somewhere. But basically, it was a public service ad to show, you know, that kids, as they grow up from little tiny to, you know, from babies to toddlers, they learn how to climb things, and they keep falling off if you're not watching, you know, kind of baby proofing your house. And the reason they wanted us to do that ad was because, you know, the stats were going up for whatever reason, parents were not watching their kids. And the point of me showing it was that I was chasing awards at the time, and I deconstructed how awards were won. And it was, I wish I could show it to you, because then you'd see why I won the award. It's because I made people feel things. Like, it horrified them. I played, this was an America's Funniest Video footage. And we played these funny sounds, so you'd laugh at it. And then I pulled the funny sounds away and made them painful sounding, like realistic sounds. And then you didn't like yourself for laughing at kids hurting themselves. And it really was powerful. It sunk in, and, you know, it got a lot, it got, you know, it got viral, this thing, at all the newspapers picked it up and was much talked about and stuff. And then we won the Gold Lion, and, you know, I felt good, although I didn't, because I was like, something's wrong. I don't know what is wrong. And sure enough, the client came to me and he said, Ray, we have a problem. everyone's aware of the problem, but they don't know what to do. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, they don't know what to do about this, that the kids are following what they do. And he said, we're going to create this brochure that we're going to keep at these community centers for people to come and read on what to do. And I go, no one's going to come to the community center, man. Like, this is it. We just created scaring people without giving them the solution. So our idea was to, create these dolls. We took these dolls and dressed them up in realistic clothes, secondhand clothes, and stuck them all over Amsterdam, and got a van full of press to go take pictures. They always need content. Reporters need content. So they took pictures, and we had a press conference and gave them the solution for what you have to do for these falling babies. And that got a lot of press and got a lot of success because the stats actually showed success, meaning babies were getting hurt less. So I was quite proud of that. And the reason, again, I put this here was to show you my disillusionment. The ad that didn't work, the previous one, won the ultimate award. This thing they didn't even allow it to be entered into the award shows. And I'm like, there's something wrong with my business. My analogy was like, it's like,
Can
if
I
I
ask
was
why not? Why wasn't it allowed to be entered?
because there was no category for it.
No.
You see, at the time, it's evolved since, where they've seen that these are the more effective ways of looking at ads. This is 96 or 7. Now they've got different categories where you can enter stuff like this. And I was just like, this business is clueless, man.
You went viral before viral was a thing, essentially.
Yeah, it's just a different word for things that catch on, right? That get into the zeitgeist. It could be anything, it could be, many symbols like, the cross. It's viral. I mean, you get my point. So this, I was just pissed off at the business because I felt like if I was a surgeon, I'd be awarded for, beautiful stitches on this patient, and the patient's dead. And if I had ugly stitches and the patient left, turned into a grandfather with 16 grandkids, no one would care. And I'm like, so I felt like I got to do something else. Took me a while. Well, the beauty was when I came back to the States, America, everything had changed. This is what, I forget what they call it, but there's a company that kind of analyzes the ongoing technology, innovative businesses, and they put all these logos together for investors to look at, and you can hover over this PDF and get into each company here. So in here, somewhere lost in this mess is Google and Facebook, etc., which are like 80% of advertising. And these are thousands of companies. Probably most of them are not around because they keep evolving, right? Like new businesses, like us, who are starting new businesses. We either pivot or we fail and we start new ones. It's just so many of these businesses don't exist. But the reason I have the slide here is it changed everything. You see, what I could do with one ad, now I had to look at all these little things and put the right sequence together. Very different from marketing one TV spot or one print ad or something like that. And I realized that everything had changed. And then I stayed in it because I found it more interesting. It wasn't the usual, story. So I moved my focus into what is called, I guess, branding. And I hate to use that word because it's a very squishy word. What's a brand? It's essentially what you feel when you've left the room, or, what you think about a product, rather than how you use it physically. It's like my feeling towards Apple, my feeling towards Tesla, or, Patagonia, good feelings, right? And then suddenly you think of, ISIS, not a good feeling, right? It's a brand, it's a feeling. And it comes from behavior. That's, and how the relationship between the brand and its customer. This is a company, my second company I started with a bunch of partners, and I left that in New York 6 years ago or so. Classic old school advertising agency, very successful, but it wouldn't evolve. And I was done with that. And then I moved on to, I did this thing called, I realized after a while, as I was leaving this place, that, while, creatives just put their finger in the air and they go, yeah, I think it should be this color, and I think the logo should be this, and I feel like your brand should be communicating like this and that. And I go, no, that's black box magical stuff. there's a really easy process that you can follow, because I realize there's a process that I follow, for the last 20 years, and it works. And essentially, you do the research. You do the research about your own brand, whatever what do people feel about it. You study the landscape, and the landscape you divide into two things. One is the literally who's eating your lunch if they're not paying for your product. Pick your top 3 competitors. And the landscape can also include these broad trends, social trends that are relevant to you, technology, or people behaving a different way. And each of these boxes, you can create one sentence. And it's hard to take this research you've done and create one sentence of it. So it's the insights. Because what you're doing by creating that one sentence is you're learning in your mind. You're getting tougher. You're strengthening yourself, which is what you just showed me. The two presentations I just saw after getting on, I saw you both toughening yourself. You're learning, you're going out there and you're putting yourself out. And that's this process too. And then you have to identify your own vision, your purpose. Why am I doing this? That's not just to make money. You have to make money. There's no doubt about it, because you have to feed yourself. But what's the exciting thing? What problem are you solving? Why do you exist in the world? That's your purpose. And then your vision is what do I see my business in 10 years? What do I see the world becoming because of my business in 10 years? Then you do your mission. How am I going to realize my vision? Then you do your positioning statement, which really, sets you up to compete. It specifies your audience, as you both are showed me right now, you're working on. And again, not the millions of people you want to sell to, but who's the specific person that's going to use your product day one? Are they going to buy it? What's the need? And you sharpen it so tightly. And I've got many examples I can take you through, but I think you know what I'm talking about. And it's hard. It's not easy to say, because you're in yourself. And then you got to find that next layer that goes, I love that thing. I need it. I'm buying it. I'm going to talk to people about it. It's incredibly difficult to create a product for them, but you can, and you will, just stay with it. So after you do your positioning, so audience is incredibly important. You can create your positioning with those 4 things on the left. And then once you've got that positioning, you start creating your brand, your personality and your principles and your narrative, your story, your brand architecture, all your different products, the name of your company, the communication, your logo, the look and feel, and your website. So the research leads to the positioning, which leads to your personality. So you from brand to marketing, that's the process. Brand is your identity, who you are internally, and marketing is how you reach out to your customers. So after that, this is just an assignment I did. I used that process for the Empire State Building because they were struggling with their brand. And at the time, it was just considered the observatory, which, $120 million business, 60% profit margin, because you just shoved people in the elevator, they went up, they looked, and they came back down. Well, lo and behold, tens of new observatories in New York, higher than the building, fancier stuff. And they were losing customers, the Empire State Building. So the owner was struggling. And yeah, there was one man who owned the damn thing. I didn't even know that. I'm like, how could one human own this building? But anyway, that human did. And he was struggling. And he came to my company, Concept Farm, that I showed you earlier. And he's like, I need more people. And I'm like, why do you need more people, man? It's a disaster right now. 3-hour-long lines and no one there in winter. Nobody really, why would any New Yorker go there in their right minds? I would never go there. Anyone comes to visit me, I'll be like, go if you want to see it. I'm not coming. And, I could have a real conversation with that guy because we kind of trusted and liked each other, so we could be real. So he goes, well, what do you want to do? And I go, man, your building is the symbol of New York City. I grew up in India and I was like, damn, I'm in New York. There it is. That's the meaning of it for me. It symbolized America. It symbolized the passion, the power of this country and its ambition. And it's just, I'm going to do things because I can. And I go, right now, it's just a tourist trap. But it's not difficult to create a voice where you can go back to the origin of this building, which was built to be the heart of New York City. And those are not my words. Those are words where someone back in 34, 36 used. And I'm like, go back to that. Use that voice. Train your people to speak like that instead of, yelling at people to go through the metal detector. Just be kind. Use a certain voice. And I said, use your lighting to create messages rather than just like, look at me, I'm all bling. So little things like that made the brand, and they started executing all these things like websites and stuff like that. Everything, uniforms were based on those principles. And the thing blinks. I think it still does. Let me know on the 14th if it blinks like a heartbeat, because that was my idea, to be like the heart of New York. A little blunt, but whatever. It was fun. And I think they still do that every Valentine's Day. Let me know, Carl.
It's coming right up, so that's perfect timing.
Yeah,
they still use it. They still use the lights that's something you look at every day. Why is the Empire State Building this color? Why is it this color?
Yeah, right. You don't understand. It's not just Valentine's Day. Like they do it for like St. Patrick's Day. They do it for like Pride. It's awesome.
Yeah, no, but my point was to make it beat like a heart on Valentine's Day, being the heart of New York. And it's a little like a heart, too little too on the nose, but well, it was a fun thing. So yeah, this is just so over my career, all these things are what I worked on, including more. I just, showed you, all right, now what do I do? And I was fed up. So what am I going to do next? Have another client? I've worked on things like Apple. I've worked on things like very edgy things like blockchain type things. And I'm like, what is left for me? I'm fed up, completely fed up. So I left New York, started consulting with a business partner in New York, where, I was not designing creative or ads or, campaigns anymore. I decided I'm going to design companies. So I would consult with CEOs, still do, and founders, not to use the jargon of branding and marketing, but actually help them do the things you are doing right now. As in, be real, like what Peter and Carl are doing for you, or what I've just stopped. I'll get there. I've done for the last 4 or 5 years for CEOs and founders of companies who couldn't pay me well, and then I got fed up with that too. So let me go past the consulting stage. That's my consulting company. And I got bored with that, going, oh my God, I'm just going to continue doing the same thing. It's just boredom, right? It's a journey. That's what I started off saying. It's a journey. At some point, you just get fed up with doing the same thing. So, that's why is my company named that, Masa and Bars? My business partner's grandfather's used to be a general in the Second World War. And my grandfather on the right was a doctor, a major in the Second World War. And I was just laughing, going, man, these guys could have tried to kill each other, but here we are, the grandsons working together. So that's why his name, Masa and Bars. Ridiculous name, but we like it. Then I started getting more intrigued with, like I said, business design rather than design, graphic design, or communication design. And my friend who I worked with on Greenpeace, she's writing the standards for reuse, which is way better and effective than recycling. Recycling has just been bastardized by the fossil fuel industry. So I'm writing with my business partner the labeling and education standard, and there are 8 standards: the digital standards, labor standards, incentivization standards, and these are like esoteric things, legal level things that we're working with the World Economic Forum and all these different giant organizations, so that any city that's reusing has standards to live up to, and they can download templates for them to reuse easily, reuse containers. So I'm working on that. It's a job I love, and I started turning down other clients because they're just boring me. But there's a reason I'm turning down other clients. Okay, this is the kind of stuff we're doing, like stuff you were doing, as in the specific nature of everything that a business is. Like every detail has to be taken care of. Where does the package go to be cleaned? What are the standards for the cleaning, and how does it go back to the brand? How big is the brand versus the reuse symbol? Things like that. So I just showed you the kind of work I'm doing. That's not as sexy looking as the Statue of Liberty ad, but this is very serious, heavy work that lifts more people. So I love this. It's not like as much fun in some manner, but I like this kind of work. So then this is my baby right now. Like you all have your babies, which is your own business, and it's terrifying at the same time. So I realized that process I showed you earlier can be automated. So users like you, see, I'm scratching my own itch here, going, hold on. I've realized my best successes have come with when I've been trusted by CEOs or users. I'm sorry, founders. When I work with marketing people, it doesn't work because they're not making the decisions. So then I thought my successes have come with that. And where my failures come from is because they haven't trusted me or vice versa. So I said, if I take myself out of the mix and automate this process so that the user can go and be asked by a piece of software the right questions, and the software spits out the answers back to them, it'll take the place of me and my business partners who've honed this process. So we've got this thing we're doing. And finally, after all these years, AI can actually allow this to happen. So that's what I'm working on every day. And it is an insane undertaking because yesterday one of my partners told me, goes, Ray, this is going to be 6 to 7 years before it can scale. And I go, I know, this is not an easy process. Like I would say to you all, it's a grind. It's hard work, but it's super exciting. Okay. And you can ask me all the questions you might want that we both relate to right now, because we're doing this as we speak. Like I called Peter the other day going, man, I need an IP lawyer and they cost $7,500. And he was like, what are you doing, man? Go to the internet and get one. I'm like, yeah, good idea. So you see, you learn things that you never even, and you got to like ask people, there are all these things that pop up. Like I have to find, as I was looking at the kind of technologies that I could apply, you just go deep down these rabbit holes of research. And I found this thing through OpenAI called GPT-3. They're called transformers, where you'll see it. Check it out. It's the wave of where the world is heading anyway. Like the internet was a word, now AI is a word. GPT-3 thing feels like one of the edgy models out there. And they're being snapped up. Those people who are using them are being snapped up by companies like Amazon and stuff. I'm like, I can't afford those guys. Or they wouldn't even look at me. And then I realized they will, because Amazon's going to have them tweak little knobs and pay them enormous amounts of money. But what my partners and I can excite these people by saying, you're going to be building the future. So sure enough, I go to these forums and I can't speak technology, but I'm like, I just talk to these guys. Hey, would you want to work with me? We have these meetings and we've got 3 programmers who are doing our tests. We briefed one on Friday. So it's crazy. That's where we're at. And we're testing. We don't have our MVP yet. I think our MVP will happen in August. And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with the so-called journey. There's no end to it. This is where I'm at. So please, if you guys have any questions, or if I've talked too much, because I'm hearing my own voice saying it's too much. That's
all right. First of all, I have to say that I was one of your targeted consumers for the red balloons and Lucky Charms at 7 years old.
Sorry about that.
Making my mom drive me to the grocery store because they added a new marshmallow to the cereal.
My apologies.
Yeah, well, I'm not diabetic or anything, so it's okay. I made it through.
Okay, that's fine.
I think everything you brought up is fantastic. I think right now the best thing is to let you guys ask any questions. And if there's anything that you don't ask that I think is important to extract from the many years of knowledge that Ray has, I will then move to that. So why don't you guys ask any questions you have?
Hi, we're kind of in a similar boat with you, Ray, building your current company. We're building a technology that's really hard to gain access of, and it's hard for us to find an MVP to totally show the capabilities of what we want. And we know it's possible, it's been similarly done, but of course we need tons of capital to actually build it. So my question is what would you suggest when an MVP is really hard to come by, like an AI system?
So
to also show something. Well, it's difficult.
It's not easy, but it's exciting. And here's why I say it's exciting is that I have to really face myself, look at myself in the mirror going, I don't know how to do this. You have young people coming out of Stanford and MIT, and I'm like, who the hell am I to, Mr. Syracuse from 1988, to talk to these guys? They're brilliant. They're designing the new world. But I just face myself and I go, what the heck? So I go to these forums, I dig in, and I connect with them. And I talk to them about creating the MVP or tests Or, do you want to join me? And you just keep going. When you're rejected, you're rejected. Go to the next person. And then it clicks. You find someone that you really like. And you speak the same language, and they don't mind that you don't know what they do. They laugh. I tell them, listen, I'm going to ask, I have two partners, right? One is the smart one, not, he's the CTO. He can speak that. Like he can speak GPT-3 and AI and God knows what else, or Python, etc. The other partner can dance between creative and technology. So one asks questions, the second one says he asks naive questions, and I'm like, I'm going to ask the dumb questions. So I do. So you bring the people along with you to help you build it, and you scrounge, you find the money, and you do your friends and family stage, and until you get to your next stage, it's not likely to get to the next stage until you've got your MVP. Your friends and family will trust you, and they go, oh, I love that person. I think they got a good idea. I'm going to help them out, and hopefully I'll make money too. That's your friends and family. So the money will come from them at this stage, seems like where you're at, and the MVP will come from attracting the people who can build it with you. And be very careful giving them equity and things like that. You don't want to promise people things. Just talk to Peter and Carl about that before I say anything in that area. But attract them by telling them what you love about your business and what you don't know about how to make it. And they'll be like, I know how to do that. It's just making a friend, essentially, So that's the best advice I can give you about being, and I'm right there at that stage.
Well,
So I feel really happy that I found three developers from different parts of the world, actually.
Something that resonated with me, Ray, as I'm listening to you is, you're very humble and you're saying you ask the dumb questions, but I think part of what you're saying in that is you have authenticity. And I think that people here, people that like work in entrepreneurship have really honed BS meters. You know what I mean? Like, it's like super sensitive. And so when you have someone that is actually very straightforward, like, whenever you hear someone and they're like, no, they have an immediate answer to everything, the BS meter goes on. But when you have someone that goes, that's a really good question. Here's some of my concerns that I have in my own product. That's what I saw with some of you guys that I was so impressed with, because that tells me you're actually aware that it's not perfect. You're open to innovation, as opposed to I have an answer for everything.
Brooke?
I actually had a question. So just for reference, because you don't know what we're doing, me and my friend Lina, who's on here, we're building an app to connect artists with art galleries, basically, using an algorithm that connects everyone and who fits each other's criteria. But an issue we're really coming across, we're definitely struggling with location, right? Because everywhere is different. Earlier we were talking about Alabama does not want any nudity in their art, right? So it's we're really struggling on that front. But I guess after hearing everything that you were talking about with advertising, something that we're worried about, or at least I am, I don't know if Lana's worried about it, but it's a really easy concept to create, right? It's such an easy model to create. I think the question is how important do you think the marketing and advertising on it's basically a networking app would be, because there are networking apps LinkedIn's here, it's not new, it's not a new system. So I think that's I just didn't know how you felt about it, because you've worked with a lot of brands.
Yeah, so it's a very personal answer I have, having been in marketing. This morning I got a text from one of the most talented people in branding and marketing I've ever worked with, and I'm a very, very good friend, and he lives near Pratt. He texted me and he says, how's my business doing? Now, I was on his side of the aisle, let's put it like that, in marketing and branding. He worked for Pentagram and all these amazing places. And I told him it's a different culture being an entrepreneur, where I'm learning. I said in branding and marketing, it's kind of there was a fraud syndrome. I don't think, I felt a little bit of a fake because I wasn't doing it. I was telling people that they should do it. Whereas now that I'm building a product, my mandate to myself and my partners is we've got to be extremely happy with it, and it's got to work, which requires less advertising and marketing. I just want people to love it. So marketing is important once I think you're ready to scale. Not yet. It'll come. In my mind, I want my product to market itself. but it won't, because once you reach like however many, I don't know, in my case, our case, I think we want like 2,000-3,000 users to love it. Then we put money into marketing it and scaling it. But if we don't get to 2,000-3,000, I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to put marketing money in it, because in my mind, I'll be like, I'm trying to sell something that people don't love. I just have to have them love my product. And until they do, I'm going to be miserable. So I don't know if that helps answer your question, but what I would say to you is, until you're sure you love your product and people love your product, then you go out and market it. So make your product so attractive that you're like, man, I'm going to go have a Halloween party somewhere, and someone says, what do you do? Here's my product. This is what I do. I love it. Then that's your marketing. Then you put money.
I want to jump on top of that answer as well, because I think that's an important thing that, like, I always tell entrepreneurs, if you're not so excited about it that people are asking you about how your company's, like, how's that project? Because you have not shut up about it. You're not doing, that's your first marketing. Yeah. Is never shutting up about what you're doing and finding the people that really love it to also be the same.
I would agree with that. I mean, I'm here at this house where I'm at right. Sorry.
Next person.
Peter, you might want to put what you're saying in the chat, because we can't actually understand what you're saying.
I was just saying that Rocky has his hand.
Okay, Rocky.
Hi, Ray. So thank you so much for coming to talk to us. My name is Rocky, and me and my partner Yorick are making pop toys collectibles. So one thing I want to ask is, so we have the idea to create mystery boxes and blind boxes of like these pop toys, and this is not a very new idea. So I wonder, like, what would you suggest us to do in order to compete in the market and to get people to like our product? And you also mentioned about the story and the meaning of your company is very, very important, right? What does it mean to do your company? What does it mean to have your brand? What do you want to achieve to help people? Do you think that the meaning, we should find our meaning and story behind our company and product, and to get people excited about our brand, our products?
Yeah, I would need to know a lot more about your product before I can answer the first part of your question. But the second one, your instincts, the reason you're starting this is you already have the meaning in you. You know it. You know why you're doing it. I think articulate that clearly with your business partner or colleague, whoever you're doing this with. Agree on it, and then see if that's permeating your product, and that will be separating your product from anything else. So yeah, I would say go inward, try and articulate what your purpose is, what your vision is, what your mission is, and then see if your product reflects all that, and do the classic positioning. If you don't, if you're not getting there, it's just, all these things are jargon in some manner, like, who cares what your vision, if you're making a great product and everyone loves it, vision, mission, purpose is all meaningless, but these are just exercises to help you build your business muscle, so you fine tune what you're doing. One day I was listening to some interview of Elon Musk, and someone said to him very seriously, in your business plan, something. He goes, I don't have a business plan. Point being, you don't have to, but it helps when you do, because I'm no Elon Musk. So I need to do a business plan for myself so that I get my investors. And I think it's a good idea to do it, to increase your chances of success. So what I would suggest to you, Rocky, is to actually say, you kind of answered your own question, like, articulate your own meaning. So you and your partner are confident that you know what your differentiation is, and check in with your product and your communication, and does it follow that meaning? That's just increasing your chances of competing.
Thank you so much, Ray. And you also mentioned about the branding, and you mentioned about define your landscape. I wasn't sure what you mean by that.
Yeah, landscape is one big chunk, as in, I think, if someone's not buying your product, your box, whose box are they buying? And study those three. Find at least three. Like, if, let's say I'm Apple, if I'm Apple, why, and someone's buying a Samsung and someone's buying a, whatever phone, Google phone, why are they paying money for that and not my product? Because they're eating your lunch. Study that, study your competitors. And I'm not saying to copy them, but understand why someone is not using you and separate yourself. Okay, that's one piece of your landscape study. The other piece is, what are the big trends? For instance, I used Apple as the example. What trends will be affecting Apple right now? Like privacy, right? We just saw. So that's how does Apple, if privacy is such a big issue to people like us, how does Apple respond to that? But, and we've seen what they've done. They've kind of they've kicked Facebook's for not respecting my privacy. So then I trust Apple more. I go, thanks, man. That's great. I don't like Facebook. I don't want them to, use my data to sell more crap to other people and myself. So that's the other side of the landscape. You see, I connected the trend of humans saying, I don't like these companies using my data. I want more privacy. And Apple responded to it. So you see, they studied the trend, the big trend, and they're studying their competitive set every day.
So I'm going to jump in before someone else asks a question. The next homework assignment for these guys was supposed to be like setting up their initial budgets and stuff, but I think I'm going to swap it and I'm going to move it to build the branding exercise that I like to do, where, we kind of look at the Simon Sinek start with why and creating the story of your brand. And because it seems so relevant with everything you're saying, that I'd rather give them that to do next. When you start thinking about, you've done it for so many people and companies and subcategories and everything else, but like when you, I think you said it when you said, I wrote down a couple things. The brand is a space in your mind, and like that was super meaning, and the rest is artifacts.
Yeah.
So like, a Kate Spade bag is a product, but the brand Kate Spade, you have a feeling for.
Yes. And so, Peter, just to like hone in a little bit on that, I'm glad you're honing in on that. I asked Andy and Kate at the time, she died recently, I asked her and him, what is the space in your mind? What itch are you scratching? I literally asked him that question. And he said, Ray, Kate is a preppy. There's a term called preppy, like Upper East Side preppy people. And she goes, there was no bag made for her. There was this little Prada backpack looking thing for $3,000. And there were these giant tote bags, like big ass bags. And he goes, there's no bag made beautiful for her. So she made the bag for herself. The preppy lifestyle in your mind, of which that bag was an artifact, a souvenir. And then with that concept of space in your mind, they could start making shoes. They could start making all these other things they make, So that's a very good question, Peter.
I think it was also Jeff Bezos that said your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah.
Anyone else have questions?
Can I ask? Thank you for your lecture. My name is Mary, and I'm doing this color, which helps people in cities to create a personal space by protecting their speech privacy.
Mary, do you want to show Ray, since he didn't see it? Just
yeah,
for
sure.
just like a second.
Yeah. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
So, what if after some interviews, you're not so excited about your product anymore, and you think like it doesn't worth to like put this on the market, and you think it's not a great idea and won't be like a hit on the market, and you won't find your customers and all of this stuff? Does it mean you're like not really good at marketing to sell this for yourself, or does it mean like you have to change the product somehow? So
Yeah, that's where you keep pivoting until you hit it, because the idea you have in your mind, whatever problem you're solving, there's something that's making you produce this, right? And if it's not the right solution for the problem, how do you continue developing the solution? And that's the pivoting. Now it's heartbreaking because I know I've done this. Like, I'm doing it. My God, I fall in love with something. I put it out there and no one uses it. And I'm like, God, I'm never going to do this. It's a true story. It's real. It is very real. Like around 8 months ago, in fact, I'm going to connect this to what Peter just said. He's switching the assignment for you guys, for you all. I'll send Peter or Carl or both the process that failed, my product that failed, but it's not a failure. It's just not a failure. Okay, truly, don't look at it like that. It's this optimism or growth. What are they called? Growth attitude or something like that.
Growth mindset versus
growth mindset. Thanks.
Versus fixed. Yeah.
Correct. Like, look at this thing and go, why is it not working? I'm going to make it work and just make it and learn exactly what to do from that mistake. So this literally, I'm going to send you my mistake. If Peter and Carl feel like it's worth you going through it for your next part of your assignment, do it. And if you have questions, email me and I'll try my best to help you go through the process. And let me tell you what it is. It's that, those however many boxes I showed you earlier, we created a set of forms, Google Forms, to ask the questions to lead to those boxes. No, well, 5-6 people did it. And I'm like, yeah, of course, it's Google Forms. It's very clunky. Then we used this process called Cognito, which is it's like Google Forms plus something else. And and I thought it would just catch fire and everyone would use it. And I sent it to friends and they were like, man, Ray, this is really hard. You're making me work too hard. And I go, yeah, I know, it's hard work to go inside and think of how you're going to pivot and think of your purpose. It's very hard work, right? None of this is easy. So he said, you got to make it easy. That's when we pivoted from that now, and we're creating the AI version of it so that you're not thinking that hard. You're just going to it and it's fun. It's augmenting your brain. Because picking up stuff that you don't know and it's telling you try that and try that. You're picking options and it's playing with you. So I'll send you my product that didn't work. So you'll see it's really hard work. But I will say it works. If you go through it with true meaning, like you're not just doing it lightly, but if you really do go through the process, it really helps. So, so that's all I can say. Like, learn why it's not working and face yourself and go, oh my God, why is it not working?
So it sounds like the concept was good, but the execution needed to pivot. And that's
Correct.
Also something that's really helpful to conceptualize it. Just because it's not working, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's the concept.
Correct. That's exactly the point. Like, and in fact, friend who's an investor type, who's very very knowledgeable in the technological world, he said, you've got a really, really good idea. He goes, it's going to be very hard to execute it. He goes, just keep going, because if anyone has the experience and the knowledge and the desire to make it happen, it's you. And he was cracking up going, what did he say? Revenge is the best success or something like that. Because, I'm so fed up with the agency world. I'm going, well, let me do better than them, cheaper. So just keep going and face yourself, and it's hard.
I like that's what Carl took from it. I took from it that consumers are lazy and you need to spoon feed them everything.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's hard work, right? So self-change is difficult, So make it playful for them and give it to them in baby steps.
Anyone else have a question for Ray? We'll do one more question. No one? Carl, do you have a question? Or Paxton?
I think what we talk a lot about is, understanding incentives. And so, Ray, you've worked from so many different approaches, whether you started in advertising, then you went to brand, then you went to consulting. What is it when, how do you determine, what's going to drive the consumer? I mean, you talk about you being in love with your own idea, but then how do you understand if it's translating or not? Like, is it just like a matter of doing these surveys, or like what is it when you have a hit?
It's whatever it takes. You survey, you test it. It's just nonstop testing and being extremely difficult with yourself, going, why is it not working, until you make it work. And it's hard. Like, that is the hardest thing. Meaning, I'll go back to the Statue of Liberty, right? It looks very obvious. It was mind-bogglingly hard to create that damn thing. Like that thing looks easy. It is so hard. Like the outfit took a lot of drama. The crown took a lot of drama. The face mask took a lot of drama. I mean, people were crying because we were fighting about the look of it and the feel of it. I had to go back. It was a reshoot. One of the top photographers on the planet. And I was like a baby art director. And I looked at it going, this sucks. I called him up the next day and I go, Craig, really incredible guy. I said, Craig, man, this is not working. He goes, Ray, I'm doing an Armani shoot and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be in Italy. And this thing has been dismantled. And I go, Craig, it's not working. We've got something good on our hands.
Told me the hands were too thick and you had to go in there and like.
Yeah, no, the background, it was squished. Then he had to put apple boxes to make it feel right. And then the hands were like this. They were like these two thumbs. And I'm like, cut the damn thumbs off. So it was very painful. Point being, Maria, you asked the question, what do? You have to do that painful work to make those changes. It's very, very painful. It's very hard.
That is definitely how the soup's getting made. Like I can think of so many scenarios in my professional life, fighting over things that no one thinks about.
Yeah.
That when you look at it, you're like, man, that was a battle.
Yep. The painful things, and it looks very easy, right? Like, oh my God, I could go on for hours about that thing, and maybe I should do that. Maybe I should do that one day because then someone knows like what it takes to do something that works.
I have one question that I want to start adding whenever I interview people and have people speak to students is, what is one book you would suggest for them to read as entrepreneurs? And fiction, nonfiction, whatever you think. One book you think they should read.
Okay. It's a pain in the ass to read, but I love this book. It's called The Structures of Scientific Revolution. You know the word paradigm, it came kind of from, it comes from a Greek word originally, but the word paradigm shift, this guy made it famous, I think it was 1972, but he talks about if you study the anomaly, your life, everything changes. So I think it's worth entrepreneurs reading it. It's a pain in the ass to read. You don't have to read every case study. Read it till you understand and you're in good shape. Thomas Kuhn.
I will add it to the chat, but I've decided that, I mean, we've had two people speak already, but it's one of those things where I think that like everyone, I have a book that I always suggest, but I think that every entrepreneur, people that have built things have one thing that they'd say, read this and get back to me.
That thing is like, literally, I can put that idea as a lens to look at all aspects of life, not just business. It's quite a book. For me, it was a very powerful book.
There you go. That's a free one for you guys.
Nice. Well, if no one else has any questions, Ray, thank you so much. Appreciate so much that you took time out of your valuable day to like share your knowledge with us, and also offered being a support. So if people can reach out to you just for some questions, that's really really wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure, man. And I'll send you that link so you can send it to everyone, and whoever wants to do it, fill up a form and I'll.
Well, that's what I was going to say is if I can speak for other people, I'm sure that we would love to, like, if you need like a test pilot about your program, which helps, entrepreneurs, just let us know.
Yeah. So, okay, great. I love that. So I'm going to send you the stuff that's not really the test. It's what doesn't work from a difficulty point of view. It'll work if you really go through it.
No great content, but we might have better attention spans than your test audience.
Yes. When I come to my MVP level, then I'll send that out. Then I think that'll be more fun. But this thing's not going to be fun, but I think it's helpful.
I appreciate that. I work with a consultant currently who is an expert in vehicle manufacturing, and everything he sends me is the biggest, annoyingly long thing to fill out, and none of my employees want to do it. And I'm like, guys, why aren't we doing what they're doing? And I know what it is, and I've been trying to figure out how to tell him, you need to make this information more fun because no one wants to do this.
Exactly. That's it. You nailed it. So I'm going to send you the thing that's not that much fun, but it works.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Okay. Bye.
Bye, Ray. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Awesome. And so now I think this is a perfect time for us to take a group break. And then let's say we come back at 2:15, so in about 7 minutes. All
Great.
right.
And then we'll pick up from the next person presenting.
2:15 sharp. See you then.
Hey, bud. So
Hey.
I, for some reason, thought I was just reading how we laid this course out. I, for some reason, thought I had branding for this going into next class, not the following week after, or following session after. So I'm just going to switch them back.
Exactly. Literally, that's what I was just about to tell you. So you read my mind because I just.
Yeah, I went back and reviewed and I was like, wait, I don't have, so, but it'll work. It'll work out great. Don't worry.
Oh, I thought it was perfect. I think Ray was the perfect person where people are at to bring him in, because it's, you know, I didn't want to bring him in later because it's all about like ideation and stuff like that.
Yeah, and this is actually normally when I do this with clients and other students, I normally introduce, once we've sort of identified the market, the product, the competition, we start trying to figure out the why, the brand, the story, because that makes everything else, that makes raising money and talking about money and all the rest of it a lot easier. So Ray was perfect for that. And I just pulled up everything I'll present for homework, and we just need to, I'm going to switch the document that we have to show that. And I'm also going to make sure that I tweak Taurus's talking points. So he's talking a little bit more about roadmaps and planning and, bearing on, starting to borderline the financial parts.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. And just for you guys, is it Taurus, or how do you pronounce
Taurus?
He's
well,
Scandinavian.
Yeah, Taurus is
Taurus?
Yeah.
So Taurus is actually is amazing. He presented like at the very first Ignition Lab right before the pitch competition, and he's Peter's business partner with the Tesla of motorcycles. You know,
we're not anything of anything.
That as a joke. That as a joke. Back the Uber of. Anyway, so
so the next speaker will be Taurus Kravchuk. He's the founder of Tarform Motorcycles. I'll throw in your homework assignment a little information about the company and about him. We've been business partners in a variety of different things for many, many years, and I'm working at Tarform now with him on building this product out. But he's a serial entrepreneur. I don't like that term either because it sounds weird to me, like a serial dater. But he definitely understands all the problems and issues that startups face, and like, defining your ideas and quantifying your ideas and launching your ideas and pitching your ideas. And your homework was supposed to be, setting your roadmaps and budgets, but I think we'll start with the branding, and then you'll get your why in place. And when you pitch it next week, then you'll be a lot easier for you to say, and I need money because it means something, So that'll be for, not next week, but next session. So, but let's get Carl after you.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to add to that is what I like is for all of you introverts out there. Taras told us that was super introverted and had to pitch so many times. So he said, I'm usually very shy, very quiet, and stuff, like it's not his nature. So I just wanted to tell you that, talk to him about that. Anyone here that's introverted, he'll really resonate and relate to you and can give you some strategies if you fit that mold. And so I thought that was really valuable, because I know that we have these beautiful, thoughtful people that are more on the introverted side, and we want to empower you, so that you can actually use that to your advantage. So anyway, I just want to add that. But so next, anyone who didn't go, we apologize, but we want to make sure Ray could talk with you, and I would love to hear your stuff.
Yeah, so next up, is anybody from Plan K here? Plan K? All right, let's go to Bestie.
Hi, we're here. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, we're Bestie, made up of Nalani Fishman-Me and Ariana Milan. A little bit of a refresher on Bestie. We're working on a customizable set of jewelry with an emergency system inside for street safety. It's supposed to be marketed gender neutrally and with interchangeable cover bits for changing aesthetics. Interview process, we interviewed around 15 people in our first initial rundown, we thought it would be marketed towards millennial women, queer people, and parents. So that's kind of who we targeted through Facebook forums and through in-person interviews. Overview of findings: men were more hesitant to buy it, but if they were going to buy it, it was more for others and not themselves. And if it was for themselves, it was more gender neutral and less flashy, I guess. The older interviewees were willing to pay a more higher amount, which this would have to cost because of the technology, while younger would only pay up to $50 to $100. So because of this findings, we decided to focus more on marketing it towards people who could afford it, and which is the parents and older demographics, while also the younger people wanting to ask their parents for it. More than, yeah. So some general issues that people said or things they wanted in it was allergy resistant GPS. Not all of these are hitters. Some people wanted a multi-purpose tool, such as a knife in it. So we're probably going to ignore that bit. But some men that were going to buy it for themselves as watches, belt buckles, and people wanting something discreet and functional, while others more valued aesthetics. So it's definitely a play between aesthetics and functionality at this point. A couple quotes that we thought were very potent were, as long as I can remember, it's on me, I'll reach for it. So it's a fact of remembering it's on your person. And as long as the world exists as it does, it will always be a need for this type of product. So our brand personas, we kind of named them Xavier, which is our queer Gen Z audience, Sarah, our millennial women, and Greg, who's a dad, and Tonya, who's a mom. And this is kind of like their budgets. So Xavier, Gen Z, motivated by style, changing identity, which we kind of hit on our caps, which cost way less.
You don't have to, you can just skip to what you learned.
Okay.
I think that first slide of these are the four, perfect. This is what we want to hear. Great.
Okay. Overall takeaways is function is above all the most crucial factor, but definitely people are concerned about the aesthetics. If it's not at all pretty or in line with what they wear, then they won't purchase it at all. Bestie has to be as accessible as possible across most demographics, and especially to those that can afford it. High prices are definitely influenced by their decision to purchase product. And the three main concerns were GPS, allergy resistant, and battery life.
Okay. Yeah, and I want to stress that creating the demographics is an internal thing that companies do, so they know it internally. And when you pitch investors, you know, you can just quickly, like that first slide where you're like, these were the four demographics, here were their budgets. That's exactly what an investor wants to know. They don't need to see the whole written out thing. That's for you to understand it internally. And that's an important thing for all of you to learn, that customer profiles are important. They're important for businesses, but when you're presenting, you kind of are like, and we looked at these and just quickly run through them. So that was great. Okay. Do you have any pictures of what you think this is gonna, have you started doing any design work? I know we talked about prototypes last
Yeah, we did,
class.
but nothing is finalized because we came through a barrier of technology, which we were talking to a cybersecurity person on the kind of software side of it.
Okay.
But we have a couple new ideas after talking to Ray, definitely.
Yeah, because your MVP, like being able to demonstrate it works and how it works, is going to be really like, you're going to be raising capital to build production versions of this and a fully robust working system, right?
Yeah.
But building some sort of like beta test platform where you can demonstrate how it sort of works will be the most important thing to sell it to that next step, you know? Carl?
I'll ask you what I've been asking everybody, like what excites you the most about this? One thing.
I think that we kind of delved into like Apple Watch is definitely a big competitor, as well as Flare and Invisaware, and how they're not marketing towards a younger audience. And so we're very excited about like while the technology is exciting, it's definitely a barrier, but the actual aesthetics going into it and the branding is very much what we're excited about. And kind of our story, I think, is what's going to sell it.
Sure.
Like capitalizing on this women owned and all that.
Okay, there you go. That's what I'm looking for. So, like because you're throwing a lot of jargon like you're saying, like it's targeted to young people, our story. But then I'm like, you know, what does that then mean? Like, let's get out of the jargon. And then we're starting to get somewhere where you're like woman owned, you know, that kind of, or whatever.
Yeah, and it's definitely gender neutral, whereas a lot of other things are like
gender neutral. There you go. So let's
women.
start getting into that. And then you're creating distinction, right? As opposed to, you know, like our story. Cause then I'm like, my brain goes, well, what is your story? So awesome. Great.
Yeah. We've definitely started thinking about that a lot, so.
Nice, great job. And you can tell, again, like is very thoughtful.
Who is next?
So up next, we've got Rock Solid.
Hi. Yuri, you want to turn on your camera and say hi? Okay. I will just do the talking. So hi, my name is Rocky and my partner is Yorick. We are Rock Solid and we make pop art collectible toys. And so our targeted customers are Gen Z customer who loves pop culture and they shop at Supreme and Nike. And I assume they would pay like $12.5 for our products. So this is like generally like some concept of what our product will look. So our MVP I had in mind was like to launch a collectible series of blind boxes of pet cats. So I started this survey for 60 people. So first question is like if they have habits of buying blind boxes, and 46% of them say yes. And the one that are interested in buying blind boxes are they really look for this characteristic of like cuteness and interesting style and what is resonate with them and anime IP and all that, and design sense, good looking, and reasonable price. So the ones are not very interested in buying them are thinking they are just ugly. Most of them, they are not very interesting and they're a waste of money. And the trick of blind boxes, they think is a trick of consumerism. So they don't want to contribute to it. And fifth, I said burn money is pretty much the same. And a lot of them mentioned they cannot get the one they like. It's very easy to get the redundant toys, so they don't want the things they don't like. Yeah, and so I asked them how much would they buy at once and would they come back later. So most of them say 1 or 2 and they will buy again if they're good. And some of them say 5 of them say 2 or 3 and some say 4 or 5. And some of them they said they will buy the whole series if they get a discount. They don't want to gamble in buying random stuff. So I asked them about our MVPs. If prior to sell blind boxes of cats, right? They have like a very cool outfits from hype culture or outfits from different countries, would they buy it? And 76% of them said yes. And I asked them if they would buy the whole series. If they said yes, 20 of them said yes. And if you can get a discount, like most of them, they want to get discount and they don't want to gamble. So how much would they pay for it? Most say within 10 or 20. Some of them said within 50, but they wanted to be like a 20 inches. And so the last question I had is like, if you do not like to buy them, why? So some of them say maybe the designs are ugly, the package are not very attractive. Most of them said this. And some of them say, many of them say very high prices. And some of them said they don't like blind boxes at all. The functions are very useless. Some of them said, oh, I forgot to mention, like for our MVP, I think I will have like each letter on each cat. So I will launch 5 cats. And so if you collect all of them, you get like the Pratt logo in a series.
I need you to wrap up. You're way over. So can you just tell us what you learned?
So what we learned is like a lot of people, they want to see, the most thing is they want the design to be good and they want to learn about the story behind the product. And if it's reasonable and relate to them, they would like to buy. Yeah, that's what we learned.
Okay.
And for our
Carl?
next step, we will have like a picture of design and ask them if you will buy it if you were make as a blind box series and ask Pratt to, yeah.
Carl?
So do you have like a prototype that you can actually like hold in your hand that like for the like by the pitch competition, like you actually, you know, the judges can actually, if you're in person, could play with and see?
I think I would. I would start to look for designers, and actually I would plan to design myself and try to compare which one is better, and then eventually mix some of them and bring it as a product.
That's great. That's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all I see is that, you know, I still think that your MVP is a very small pool. Pratt's not a very big place, and student population wise, even alumni wise. So, you know, convincing someone that didn't go to Pratt to buy these is probably going to be tough. But I think, you know, for the MVP of this test theory, keep going on this path and we'll see where it shakes out. But, you know, in the long run, you would either want to take this concept and have it replicatable at every, like Harvard, you know, NYU, UCLA or whatever, or else it doesn't make much sense testing it using a college, like as your like inspiration for the character creation. So I think you do need to search the story of why Pratt Cats, and like how that, you know, dictates the business moving forward. Or if you're going to end up hitting a wall because you've sold, you know, a couple hundred Pratt Cat, you know, figurines, and then everyone's like, cool, I don't need those anymore. But I think that'll be your next couple steps. So good job.
Thank you.
Next.
Next up, do we have Benjamin Fuller? Nope. So then the last is Studio Chair.
We're here. I'm gonna share screen.
I want to interrupt and say we spoke with this team on last Friday, and you guys started your first LLC, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Congratulations! You are in process of being a properly government recognized business.
Thank you so much.
Way to represent.
We're excited to see how that part goes. Definitely more challenging than the design and what we've been used to doing.
Yeah.
View full screen. Oh, my bad. That did not go right.
Okay.
Sorry about this. Okay. So hello, this is Lara and Quentin, and we are Studio Chair. We are a small design studio currently focusing on wood pieces cut and built in Brooklyn.
For this presentation, we'll be talking about our main customer, Tion, and their gallery/shop of the cloth. We chose a bit of a different approach for this assignment, and we'll be discussing one profile rather than multiple. So far, we have been building our pieces and then displaying and selling them at Tion's store, making him our sole customer. They then communicate with customers that buy our pieces, so we felt Tion would represent all of them best.
Tion is a 32-year-old collector and design dealer who spends most of their day engaging with antiques and emerging new designers. They are inspiring and surround themselves with architecture and design that often see people struggle to connect with their space. They think about meeting new people and dream to create a non-transactional art space. They're extremely warm and supportive when it comes to helping upcoming designers. Their main frustration is depending on people that don't have the same drive as them.
What we learned from this interview is that being successful and connecting with your client comes from being excited about your product and willing to share a positive state of mind with the customer. Happy designer equals a productive day, equals a successful business.
Hey guys, just want to let you know that the slides weren't changing.
Oh.
What is happening?
The slides weren't changing.
Oh, you didn't see any of them?
We just saw it was holding on the first one, which is absolutely beautiful, but we didn't see the ones after the first one.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Can you see them now?
Yep, just zip through them real quick.
Oh, okay.
What do they see? What do they think? What do they do? Okay, cool.
This is our last one.
Yeah.
Cool. And that's you guys making the stuff, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Cool. Very, very, very good. since you guys already have a customer, it's very good that you thought of it, but I think as you grow and the business grows, you're gonna wanna put yourself in the shoes, not of just Tion, your customer, but his customers and what they want.
Okay.
So like that's the next leap for how, design furniture works, is if you can successfully sell to many galleries and you understand how gallery owners and buyers think, that's a fantastic model to getting your product on the market. But then understanding how they sell it to their customers and what their customers want, because I bet his customer is older and wealthier than 32, So, I know how much custom made furniture costs and like what the costs are to run these kind of businesses and who's buying it. So, that I think is the other audience that you want to be able to talk about. So maybe even talking to Tion and saying, who are your main customers? Why are they buying these things you're selling and what drives them to do it will help you even become better creators of the stuff you're making. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Carl?
I'm just wondering, did you get any feedback, and is there any way you could like get a testimonial since you've already started? It sounds like it was very positive. Like, is there things that you can actually incorporate into your marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been very lucky that we found Tion that is kind of like our middleman. And so like we're
Yeah, it's
able,
so exciting.
yeah, to like build what we love to do. And then he's very excited about them, then like buys them for us and then actually like, sells them to other customers. But we will have to face the direct connection between us and the person, who will be using the piece of furniture too. And so we've gotten some feedback. Like, for example, he said that people might be looking for smaller scale things as well, that like a large piece of furniture is like, it's harder to decide whether you want to buy this or not. So if you have
especially in New York City, right? When a lot of people are in the apartments and stuff. Yeah.
Carl, you see these designs? They're not selling them to small apartments.
Yeah, and so like they see.
I want one though.
Yeah,
I hope you have a big loft.
They see this big piece of furniture and they love it, but then they're like, but I don't know if it will fit in my apartment. It's too heavy to carry, blah, blah. But if you have something small that it's like ready, you can pick it up, buy it and leave with it. So basically his response and main feedback was that we should create a variety of products from larger scale to smaller scale as well to help us develop our designs and also reach more people.
Especially think about, I guess you can't do everything at once, but that sounds like an adjustment that might do well. And think about the world's population and the population density, right? And how that could really play to that.
I think it's great that you have a partner like Tion, especially starting off in business. Having someone that's excited about what you're doing and helping you grow is literally like one of the most important things. And you're a little further ahead of the game than a lot of the things here because you guys had already been doing this. But I will put on my investor / growth hat, business development growth hat, and say, once you've sort of figured out what works and what doesn't using this test base of his shop, you're going to want to also start trying to sell to other shops, you're also going to run into a labor issue and a production scale and a timeline and how many pieces can the two of you make? Are you hiring people? Blah, 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 blah. These are all things that come up as businesses grow because you guys both may end up way more on the brand side and less on the sanding side. You may be designing and other people may be executing. And that's just the nature of a growing design and especially craft business. A great case study, if you want to look at someone who does this, is Jeff Koons. Jeff Koons doesn't paint a lick of art. He is a conceptual artist and other people execute it that work for him. And I know it sounds like, that's cheating, but it's not. There's no reason you have to be operating the belt sanders because you're selling your ideas.
He doesn't make the balloon animals himself?
His studio makes them, but he doesn't weld anything. He doesn't pick anything up.
What about his sexual paintings and all that stuff? Like,
nope, he didn't paint any of them. He has production painters on staff.
Wow.
Jeff Koons was a Wall Street guy.
Oh, so he's the ultimate delegator.
Yeah, he was the Wall Street guy. From his Wall Street business and said, I can make art, watch. So I'm not saying that that's exactly what you want to be. This is a whole other conversation. But I'm saying when you look at you have to make a decision in your life as designers and business owners of maybe you make super high-end ones yourself, but you're really selling your ideas, your designs. You aren't necessarily selling that you have to be the ones building it. Right now it's a plus, but if you're big enough and people want your designs enough, they're gonna say, I want Studiature's design. I don't care if it's executed by a manufacturer in Mexico. You know, and that'll be something you'll have to cross that bridge at some point.
And that's connected to what Ray was talking about with brand and everything, right?
Yeah, and I think, is anyone else not gone?
Unless it's someone who we're going to circle back to, but this is the last group.
Okay. So let's just talk about what the next assignment is. Everyone has me loud and clear?
Thank you.
I have my Wi-Fi working. Okay.
Yeah, you sound good, Peter.
All right. So the next big step that I want you guys to think about is that brand step. But a lot of people think about brand as a logo and a typeface and a color. And I think Ray really started saying exactly what I would say. I like it when people that are smarter than me and more successful than me say the same things that I'm saying to you, because it means at least I know I'm directing you. And he was saying the same thing. Who is that user? Who is, you know, but like what he was talking about in brand and like how you talk about the feeling of what you're doing is incredibly powerful. And the next phase for you guys is going to be two parts. So life is storytelling. And telling the story of what you're working on is sort of make or break how you grow as a business. If you can't tell your story well, people won't gravitate toward it. If you tell your story incredibly well, you can create, you know, brand ambassadors and people will have a narrative about what you're doing and how amazing it is. And this is anything from a service to a product to anything. This is like how we are as humans. So for your homework, you're going to be creating sort of what your brand is, like what it stands for, what you're, you know, we've talked about, you know, who you're targeting, how you're targeting them, you know, who they are as people that you want to target. And now you're going to be talking about like how you talk about yourself when you're approaching them. So the first thing that we're going to do, and I'll send an email with all of this, is you're going to watch a TED Talk from Simon Sinek. If you haven't seen it yet, it's called Start With Why, and it's about putting why in the center of everything you're doing. And if you are in the entrepreneurial world long enough, you're going to hear a lot of people talk about this, because the theory that he created was people don't necessarily buy what you're making or how it's made, but they will buy your story of why. He talks about it from leadership, like if you wanted to be an executive or a politician. He talks about it from, you know, like there's reason people tattoo Harley Davidson on them and don't even own a Harley. It's because they buy into the why of that story Harley tells. You know, same with Apple versus PC, things like that. So we're going to start with looking at that. And if you want to read the book, Start With Why, I highly recommend it. It's a really important thing about how to phrase. There's a couple, like I've never really been big on nonfiction starty up books. I've read a ton of them. I think they're all great if, you know, you're looking for answers or empirical case studies. But I find myself the books that are nonfiction about startups that I find the most important are the ones about telling stories. Because how you tell your story is going to really matter to your customers, investors, and yourself. And Selena and Nico talked a little bit about that as well. So let me share my screen. So we are going to start with, hold on, give me 1 second. We're going to start with why. Share screen. This is the book. I'll throw it in the chat as well. And I will send you guys the TED Talk. And
Uh-oh, Peter, looks like the Wi-Fi thing's kicking in.
sorry. You got me now, loud and clear? Okay, sorry about that. So you're going to start with that, and then you're going to be asked to sort of write the why of what you're doing. And I think some of you have it already pretty well done. But then that's going to lead into a brand, like essentially creating. One of my friends who's an expert in branding and marketing, he always talks about the temple of your brand, and it's, you know, where people come to talk about what you do. And he always talks about, you got to build this house and get your brand in it, and then the people come. I thought that was a nice way, but I actually liked Ray's comment about the brand is a space in your mind as well. But remember, the brand identity is so much about feeling. Like Ray said, like, you know, you think ISIS and you're not like, oh, I totally want to send them money, but you think other things, and like everything lives in your mind in different ways. So that's what you have to create, because as people start interacting with your company and you know, buying your products or whatever, all of that matters. All that why and why you're doing things and how you talk about the why of what you're doing matters. And I think Felipe talked about Zappos, you know, they would ship people pizzas and they had the most amazing customer service ever. And that was their why. Their why was, you know, we're going to sell you something that you could go buy at a store and most likely you do, but we're also going to sell you an experience and customer service with it at an amazing level. And I guarantee you, I used to do an assignment where I would ask you guys to draft like 3 companies you trust and why. And I've had people bring me things like very strange examples. Like someone said Walmart, which I was super surprised by. And they were like, well, every time I go, they have what I need, so I trust them. And I was like, it's a really weird way to think about it, but like that's how it lives in that person's mind. And then I would ask them to define 3 companies they don't trust and why. And I think it's an important exercise to think about, like, these companies that you, or companies that you would tell your friends to, you know, like, you have to use this, it's amazing, it's the best. Like that brand ambassador, your friend telling you to use something will get you to do it way quicker than me advertising to you in like 10 different ways. Your friend saying, hey, check this out. So like, we want to create that feeling of our brand and what we're doing, and we want to understand what we're conveying and not just saying, I threw something against the wall, it's stuck, so I kept going. So I'm going to try to share my screen again. And if it glitches, I'm just going to quit, but give me a second here. Am I live? Can you hear me? Thumbs up.
So far, so good.
It's all messed up.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Anyway, I'm not going to share it, but you're going to be given it. Essentially, you're going to be given a brand assignment, and I'm going to send you guys a brand questionnaire. And it's going to be questions that you're going to answer about your brand and why your brand is what it is, how you've created it. And it's a pretty standard thing that, like, if you know you went to Ray's company prior to him, you know, changing it multiple times, it's like if you go to Saatchi & Saatchi, or you go to Pentagram, or you go to a big branding and marketing house, they want to know, they want you to answer these things. And you're going to see questions we've already asked you to answer on this questionnaire, but it's also going to get down to like questions of like, when you think about your brand, is it meant to be fun? Is it meant to be serious? You know, and we're going to give you a bunch of different words to kind of figure out how you define it. And if you've taken me before, you've been given this already. And then you're going to kind of go and execute a basic brand guide, brand guides can be 700 pages long with a million colorways. I have a Pizza Hut one that's literally 150 pages long about how you're allowed to use the Pizza Hut logo. Web, print, TV, color changes, anything on products. But I'm not going to ask you to do that. I'm going to ask you to create a mini DNA of your company. And that will include a logo, and it will include some design elements, but it's also going to include that story element. And then next week or next session, you guys are going to come in and you're going to say, some of you don't even have names yet for your companies, and some of you are still changing your names, but you're going to kind of say, this is the brand that I want it to say this, and I want these images to verify it, and I'm going to live behind these meanings of this brand I'm selling to your audience, your customer, you know. I'll use Bestie because you guys had, you know, like you had Xavier to Tanya, you had 4 different people, 4 age ranges, 4 different demos, and that's exactly what you want to be able to be like. So this is Bestie, and it has this, you know, it has a feel. We want you to feel safe when you have it. We're not selling you on fear, we're selling you on safety. And we want this, we want you when you hold it, it feels strong or smooth or relaxing, and understanding the what you're trying to convey in every piece of way you touch your audience. From the package, from your website to how your customer service is, to how you talk to investors, to how you talk to your audience. You want it to be seamless. And when Taurus comes in and talks about Tarform motorcycles, which if you think about motorcycles, you kind of think like, you know, motor heads and edgy, and like Tarform is not built like that. We're built around sustainability. We're built around modularity. We're built around design and speed as well. But like, we're not targeting a Harley buyer as our target audience. We're targeting someone who may not even own a motorcycle or interested in riding a real petro motorcycle. And we're targeting people that may be interested from a sustainability standpoint, from a technology standpoint.
Like Harley Davidson tattoos. You know where I'm going.
Yeah. Well, we actually had an investor who said maybe right now this is the seeds of the next Harley Davidson, and people will be tattooing Tarform on themselves. I don't think our brand, we would actually want that. Like, I think our mission, if someone was like, we had a tattoo, I think we'd both, me and Taurus, would be like, all right.
A little, yeah, it's a little weird, sure. It's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah. So that's going to be your next step. It's going to be really defining your story and creating some sort of logo. And I'll say that no matter what you do, this should be helpful. One of my former students, Sean Kim, he founded something called Woj Design, WOOJ Design. I'll put it in the chat before the class is over, but he founded it in one of my classes. Now, currently, he doesn't make what he made in my class, but he did this exercise. He founded his design studio, and now his design studio is selling multiple products, mostly 3D printed. He owns the studio's in Brooklyn. He has 4 or 5 employees, but he graduated from Pratt like a year and a half ago, or 2 years ago. So he's like going out and living it. And he actually like has been in Dwell and Architectural Digest. And one time he goes, you know, I kind of came up with the brand in a class at Pratt, in a crowdfunding class at Pratt. And I was like, it's kind of funny that like he was able to take what we did in this assignment and then carry it into this business he's running now.
I love it. And that's, again, it's about bringing your product, whatever it is, to the best of your ability, to the pitch competition, knowing that the true value is not necessarily whether that goes forward or not, but that you're learning these skills that you can apply then to whatever great idea comes next, if it's not that. I love it. And the other thing I wanted to say is that Ray already sent me the build a brand. So I'm going to include that in the homework as well. So that's great. Access to all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure his is probably, I may see if he'll let me just steal that and throw it into all my classes.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, you know, because that's like what he's been doing his entire life. And so now we all have access to that, where everyone else would have to pay a lot of money. So it's very
hundreds of thousands of dollar brand campaign and him managing it. And he's just giving us all that information. And he told me we had a call before class a week ago, and he told me, he goes, man, all I've been doing is fishing for people all these years, and now I want to teach them to fish. And I think that's like one of those things where that's the people we're trying to bring you and the skills we're trying to bring you. I'm never going to be like, go hire the most expensive lawyer, go hire the most expensive accountant. As I told Ray, who was being quoted $7,000 by lawyers to draft a contract that you can literally pull offline. They're like standard boilerplate. I was like, you can take this. And he was like, yeah, you know, the cheapest they're quoting me is $2,500. And I was like, literally, here's a couple things you can look at. Try this. And he's like, oh, I can do this myself. You know, so, you know, being scrappy and not always trying to throw capital at everything is a good answer for startups. And it shows that you're smart, and that if I was to invest with you, that you can make stretch a dollar to really pull off your dreams. Does anyone have any questions? I'll send the homework out tomorrow and you guys can get started. Does anyone have any questions for us or comments or anything?
Ray said like he's happy to take our email, so I wonder like if you can send his email to us.
Yep.
I'll go put it, I'll copy and paste it right now from my email and put it in the chat.
Yeah. And remember, whenever these people are nice enough to say that, I have a rule. I call them 10-minute emails. An email that will take me no longer to answer than 10 minutes is what I will welcome those any day of the week. If it's like, hey, I'd really like to sit down and talk to you for an hour, it's a little bit bigger of a conversation. So be very respectful of everyone's time, because you know you don't want to burn. You want to make sure that you are using it wisely.
All right, so I just put in the chat, everyone. So be sure and copy and paste that, anyone that wants to reach out to Ray. It's always wonderful to show appreciation before you do an ask. I'm sure you all know that, but I just like to say that appreciation, I think, is one of the most underutilized resources that we have. You know, that really gives someone value. I try and do it for you guys. I try and let you know sincerely that I appreciate that you're sticking with the program, because I love this, and it when you guys stick with it, it helps us do what we like doing, you know, like empowering you, and we love hearing your stories and building this community. Even Peter, yeah. So what's exciting is next also, which is February, Paxton, was it February 26th? 20, is that right?
Yep, it's February 26th.
Great, okay. So we're also having an alum of the program, Liz Olguin, who I worked with, is gonna talk about the company that she started with her partner, and they're gonna talk about, you know, what that process is like as well. And Catherine Jacobson is meeting with, you know, Peter and myself to also, she's in an exciting accelerator program. She's another past participant. So we're also building this community as well, so that you guys have supports, you have people that you can reach out to as well. So that's a real exciting thing. And yeah, so Peter, anything else before we sign off?
No, I think, you know, I love all the progress you guys have made, and especially the people that went back and did one interview and then did a second. You really used your time wisely. You know, this is hard stuff, and it's hard stuff to hear maybe that your ideas aren't exactly what you thought they were going to be, or that, you know, you may have to change something that you would change an assumption you'd already had, but this is where the work is done. So, you know, if the more you do now, the easier it is later. And I think Ray made that really clear as well. You know, you're going to fail, but you know, you're failing forward, which I don't like that term either, but it's a popular term to say that you don't look at these as failures, but as successes, know what you're not supposed to do, right, Carl?
Well, yeah, and to add to that, to be honest, like I think, you know, before I went into clinical psych, I did acting, and what you take from that is that when you fail, you know, you had to have courage to actually do something challenging in order to put yourself in a position to fail, you know, and so most people are too scared to even put themselves in a position to fail, you know, and I hope I'm being really sincere about that. Like, so people that fail a lot, I have so much respect and admiration for, sincerely, you know, and that's how you get to like do something truly innovative. The final thing I want to say is, in order for us to run these programs, we need to collect feedback from you, and we use that feedback to like show to the board of trustees. I actually have to do a board of trustees presentation and say, look, people are getting value from this. Please keep the funding going so that we can do this without charging people or making them take classes to get these resources and connections. So we're going to be sending on Monday a survey, just a super quick one, like 4-question survey. It's like, hey, are you learning anything? You know, whatever. If you guys can answer that, we use that so that we can then get the funding for this. So I'd really appreciate your feedback. Thank you so much. That's the last thing I wanted to say.
I'm gonna add one last thing too. If you're here and didn't present or kind of like in limbo, I've gotten a few emails from people who might want to join another team or here and didn't present. Will you just send me an email with how you're doing, what's going on, just so I can kind of help guide and make sure everyone's, here getting the best out of it that they can. So no big deal, but if you'll send me an email, today or tomorrow, just a little update on what's going on, that'd be good.
Awesome. And of course, if there's anything you want us to focus on, since we're still in the program, like, hey, I really am wanting to learn about this, also include that, and we'll do our best. So any final thoughts, comments, anything before we go?
And sometimes it might be easier for just like, we opened up for last Friday, was it? For one-on-ones with Carl and I. And sometimes if it's like questions, I know one, we were talking about filing taxes or paying people or in corporations, things, I know that we'll want to talk about that all, but if it's something that's very specific, as I said, 5 minutes, 10-minute emails or quick conversations, I'm always open for those to help you guys along the way if you have something that's just burning a question in your brain.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. I know that, your time is valuable and it can be draining going through a 3-hour Zoom. So I hope this gave you value. Appreciate you so much. And we will see you on February 26th.
Can I ask real quick?
Oh, yeah.
So just to be clear, to send Paxton email tomorrow about how is all going, or?
Oh, we're going to send you on Monday. We're going to send you just like a quick 4-question thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Sorry. Yeah, just to clarify too, that's just a few people have sent me emails regarding like, oh, I'm not going to present today. Just if someone needs to clarify, they probably know. So yeah, if you need to email me on anything, you can, but that was more just if you're kind of trying to figure out catching up or anything like that with the program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, great question. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, and Paxton, I'll stay on just for a second. And Peter. Okay. And Jesse can hang out.
There
you go.
I just throw people out sometimes. I'm like, get out of here. All right, I thought that was really good.
That was awesome. Yeah, and I loved so far every one of these sessions, all 3 of them. I think they've just been like great. So great job, everybody. Like it's been super great. Like I said, Paxton, I think I have a survey that I used, last year, and it should be a super easy one. So I'll send that to you so we can set it out like hopefully like Monday morning or whenever as soon as you're done with classes or whatever is easy.
Yeah, the only thing I had was I copied you, Paxton, I think on 2 emails to our next speakers. Taurus and the other one's Toby, I believe.
And I'll get the links. And I'll send them to you guys I can just do the links right now for session.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so Toby Bryce, you're on, it's through my design studio, PTR Design. I don't know him personally well. So if we could follow up with him and say, here's the information for the call and all that, that'd be helpful. I know that he comes highly recommended.
Oh, the other thing, like sorry, Peter, my bad. What I did with like Ray and stuff is I just invited him from 1 to 2 on Google Calendar. So for that specific speaking slot with the Zoom link to just try and make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, I invited Taurus to the Google Calendar slot. He accepted, but I'll just add the Zoom link into the notes. I didn't have it yet, so there's no
That's
Zoom
my bad.
link.
I'll give you Paxton. I'll make that Zoom link for you literally like after this.
Yeah, sure.
Most of the speakers we bring in are like people that we can like text and like, but
Right.
like Toby is one where I dug it up through incubator mentorship thing I'm part of. So.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Cool. For me, I will get the homework out. It's pretty straightforward. I would, if you could, did he send that directly to you?
Yeah, I'll forward it to you right now as well, Peter. So I'm writing down my to-do right now, which
if you forward me that, I'll send it out with everything else.
I'll forward it to you like literally the second we hang up.
Because I want to look through it and see if there's anything I want to just add as like, you have to do this in my homework assignment,
Okay.
I'm sure there's something in there that I'm gonna be like, whoa, I didn't think about that. It happens all the time.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so forward Peter that, create Zoom link. And then I'm gonna try and find the survey. That, if it's okay, I'll try, because I might have to do some digging. So I think I might wait till Monday morning. So I have like a half hour or something to dig through my Google Drive and dig that up.
Yeah.
Put that on my calendar, so I do it first thing in the morning. Find Google survey. Yeah, because it is really important that we actually get feedback. So then, like I said, I can present to the board of trustees and the president, because that's how I get the funding to be able to like pay for you guys and you know the other.
Yeah, tell them to pay us more.
I did, actually, I am. That's one of the things that I'm doing. Yeah.
I was actually joking when I said that. What I was really going to say is tell them to give us grant money so we can actually fund some of these projects.
I know. Well, I was looking at.
You know my whole pitch about this. Give me Pratt's money to invest in our students, and I will make Pratt money back.
Oh hell yeah, man! Like I was looking at MICA. Do you know like the Maryland? Institute of the whatever, and so they have state funding like 20 grand, you know, and stuff like that.
Rochester RIT, they fund student work projects and they take a percentage. MIT, BOZ was invented at MIT. BOZ was invented at MIT, became a company, and the owner of the company is gifting BOZ back to MIT when he dies.
Wow.
So I mean, we're not MIT. I don't want to tell our students that, but you know.
No, but I love it. I love it. And I just realized I'm recording this, so I should stop. Even though this is good stuff, it just shows how like into the program we are and the thought.
Well, I've spoken to many people at Pratt about getting capital, some sort of fund put together to